I remember laying in bed. I remember holding hands and praying to God, we want a year to research you. And if you're true, we'll come back to you. And if not, we'll,
So I want to get inside of that prayer.
Okay.
So you're both in bed, and the prayer is like literally, God, please don't send us to hell, but we're going to try to find out more about this. And please, if something happens and we die in the next year, please don't let us go to hell. We're really sincere about this.
Yep. We had read like where it says test all things. We were raised in a way that if you spoke about something outside the Bible, that came from Satan. So we kind of just said, God, please give us the leniency to take a year where we are going to go outside of this, where we are going to fathom these things. And if you are true, then we would come back to you. So it shouldn't be a problem.
Welcome back, my not very distant cousins, to If I'm Really Honest. I've been trying to get a hold of today's guest for a very, very long time because of my obsession with the experience of following your internal honesty over the acceptance of your tribe. My current hypothesis is that the more fringe the tribe, the more it becomes a part of your identity. So the more destabilizing it is to leave, and the more cultishly the tribe tends to act in order to hold itself together. Real quick, to be clear, I don't mean this as a criticism, and I don't think any of these dynamics say anything about the truth of these groups. I would expect that when germ theory was first being debated, the germ theorists acted a little bit culty. I would expect the early heliocentrist community to feel fringe and conspiracy-ish. It doesn't mean they were wrong. Of course, it doesn't mean they were right. It's just the natural behavior of people who think that they are right and think the world is against them. Some of us deconstruct out of such tribes, completely naive to what it's going to cost us because we believed our tribe's constitution, every tribe's constitution, which says that we're dedicated to the truth around here. But others of us were just brave, knowing what it was going to cost because we saw the way that our group treated people outside of our fringe. And there are almost no groups more fringe than flat earthers. And there's almost no one willing to admit they used to be one, as I confirmed with the two leading flat earthers. Do you know anyone who has left the flat earth community?
Not organically.
Do you feel like you'd be able to maintain your relationships? Do you feel like you'd be able to come back and say, hey, Dave, I'm not in this camp anymore, but I love you and I still want to be your friend?
Yes, but at that point, you're in uncharted territory, aren't you? Because then the whole community might just blow up. I mean, at that point, the cohesive bonds wouldn't be there anymore at all.
Today, I'm joined by former flat earther Jeran Campanella. If you haven't heard his name, let me just quickly walk you to the edge of this rabbit hole. Okay, so the flat earth community claims that the earth is a disk, like a plate, and just like a snow globe, it's covered by a dome that they call the firmament. Now that means that the sun is a nearby light that circles the plate, like the point at the end of the clock's hour hand as it circles the clock. That's how the sun gives light to one part of the world and nighttime to the other. For many flat earthers, this means if you go to the North Pole, which is located at the center of the plate, you might be able to look around and watch the sun going in a circle all day long. This is also what you believe, by the way. The sphere Earth model says that if you go in the right season, the sun won't set on either pole. But here's the rub. Flat earthers don't have a South Pole. The North Pole is at the center of the disk, and the opposite of that is the outer rim of the disk. And since we've been to the South Pole, and it's always cold and icy, flat earthers are sure that the outer rim of the plate is cold and icy. In fact, they believe it's a barrier so that the oceans don't spill over the edge. Now, the claim in your science books is that if you go to the South Pole of this sphere Earth around December, you should be able to watch the sun go around all day. Now, until recently, most flat earthers said that it shouldn't matter when you go to the outer rim of the plate, the South Pole. You're only ever going to see the sun pass by once a day. So, for all the experiments that flat earthers do to tell if the Earth is curved, if someone went to the South Pole and saw a 24-hour sun, it would be the final experiment. So, a guy named Will Duffy said, let's go. Let's do the final experiment.
So 4 flat earthers, 4 globe earthers get flown to Antarctica. This guy called Will Duffy put the project together. The open offer to all of the biggest flat earth influencers. They had drones. They had 24-hour 360 cameras. They had live stream of iPhones, all of this stuff. There's this dude, Jeran Campanella. He's said, I saw the sun above the horizon. I think the Earth's round.
The episode you're about to hear is not about the shape of the Earth. It's not even about every flat earther's experience. It's a look at the internal world of one man, who I think is honest and brave. One man who's right about a lot of things and is wrong about a lot of things. It's a cousin to you and me, with an experience that we can all learn from. Jeran Campanella. The most common question I get every time I just bring up the term flat earth is they don't really believe it, right? They do. And I would like to hear you talk to
Sure.
that.
So, I mean, from my perspective, I think what happens is first you realize that you're being lied to at some level, whatever that might be. And I think that there's nobody who could ever say that's not happening. So you've already got an open playing field of
Just to make sure that we're on the same,
sure,
you're saying that like as a regular, what they would call glober, like
sure,
just a normal human being, you realize that someone that you trusted has lied to you. Your parents
right,
about Santa Claus, your government about COVID, or whatever it is.
correct,
Something enters your awareness of, oh, I've been duped.
right.
Okay.
Lied to, and it's also a kind of position that religions take, right? Which is the Bible's true and science is attacking it. And so there's always this you're being lied to on some level by someone. Nobody's going around saying, no, I'm told the truth by everybody. It's just, not something that happens. So once you've got that person believing that they've been lied to, then you've got this open playing field. Now, I think if you are a doctor, you went to college, you're college educated, you've got a decent job, those people are going to be more happy with the place that they are in life. So they're not going to really fathom that much or not really take it much in because anything that they change in their life might affect their current standing, right? So if you're a doctor and you're told, hey, vaccines are actually bad, well, that doctor is not going. It's very difficult for that doctor to take that and think about it because it means that everything they're doing is wrong. They've been pushing wrong medications to children, so it's like they're not going to listen to that. But if you're not in those positions, then it's a very attractive idea, especially because if you think of like people that may have been let's look at this. If you didn't graduate, well, let's say you graduated high school, but that was it. That was the end of your, education. You go into the sector. So you're always going to have this feeling of like you could have been better, you could have been more, you could have been. And I think that what Flat Earth allows, especially, is it actually gives you the confidence to think you made the right decision. Because if you would have gone to college, you would be indoctrinated like all these idiots and you would believe what they believe and you would be reciting what they recite. So because you were smart enough to not go to college, now you're at a place where you weren't indoctrinated. And so you were able to get out of that. And that this is the reason that you're held back. This is the reason that you never became anything great. This is the reason you don't have a lot of money, is because you've been lied to from a systematic perspective for years. And I think that it's an attractive thing. Like for instance, if you go on Facebook or something, you'll see flat earthers always going after globers, calling them morons, retards, whatever they have to call them. And like, when else has that happened in life where you've got somebody who didn't go to college who's able to look at somebody who did go to college and laugh at them and make fun of them for their decision to do that? So I think that that's attractive to people who have not the best life going, And if you don't have a job and you don't have a career, then you have a lot of time at home. And so you can actually let your mind wander and start thinking of these things. And then it will actually put you further into that category, meaning that you're not going to start to think flat earth and then find great jobs. You're not going to start to think flat earth and discover great business ideas that you go on to become rich with. You're going to actually become a hermit. You're going to alienate friends. You're going to alienate family. And you're going to actually get pigeonholed into a group of other flat earthers. That's who becomes your friend. So then you get told by flat earthers things like block globers, they're demons, and so you block your opposition. And this is another thing I don't think we realize. I didn't realize it till I got back from Antarctica, that if you block people on YouTube, they legitimately don't exist anymore. So picture you're Dave Weiss, and anybody who agrees with you, great, you're my friend, you're my pal, be in my comments, great. If that person leaves a comment that says you're a grifter, block. If that person leaves a comment, go watch this video, it's about you, block. Dave Farina made a video about you, block. So in a matter of no time, a year, you have cleaned YouTube to the point where it is seriously the worst echo chamber of all time. How would you even know? How would Dave Weiss even know if somebody was against him? He blocks them.
So I'd like to imagine that I'm Jeran.
Okay.
Do you feel like that is what happened to you?
Well, I think for me, for a creator, what happened with me was pretty simple to see. When and because you have to remember, I was here from the beginning. Okay, so my first video was February 2015, which was the same month as Mark Sargent. Okay, so and Mark Sargent's video, the Flat Earth Clues, is the reason that I decided to start making videos. So my wife and I, the way we remember it, is that we were flat earthers about November 2014.
How old are you at that point?
So I would have been 34.
Okay. And up until then, you've got no questions that the Earth is globe.
No questions. Nope. And what it came down to is we had started talking about having a baby, possibly. We got married in 2011. So 2014-ish, we're talking about having a baby. and what religion would we raise them under. And she was born Bible believing Christian, like fundamentalist, and I was born Catholic. Now we both weren't really practicing, so we were just kind of, just our families were religious. And so when we started talking about having a baby, and then I was kind of like, well, we don't want to raise them with the Bible because the Bible's not true. And she said, well, no, the Bible is true. And I said, well, the Bible is written by men. And she's like, no, it's not. So we had this kind of endpoint. And then we said, let's look into it. And I remember laying in bed. I remember holding hands and praying to God. We want a year to research you. And if you're true, we'll come back to you. And if not, we'll. So we did that when we started this mission of and that was our first real deep dive into something that we believed.
I want to get a little bit of clarification there. So I want to get inside of that prayer. So you're both in bed, and the prayer is like literally, God, please don't send us to hell, but we're gonna try to find out more about this. And please, if something happens and we die in the next year, please don't let us go to hell. We're really sincere about this. Is that something along the right lines?
We had read like where it says test all things and things like that, and so we were like, okay, but we were raised in a way that if you spoke about something outside the Bible, that came from Satan. So, or right, if somebody was, trying to bring up evolution or something that would veer you off that path, that was just a test. And so we're like, well, how could you ever really research everything if anything coming from out? So we kind of just said, God, please give us the leniency to take a year where we are going to go outside of this, where we are going to fathom these things. And if you are true, then we would come back to you. So it shouldn't be a problem. So that was kind of our prayer. And then right away, within a month or so, we had kind of reached the conclusion that the Bible was false. And that was mostly because of reading it on our own. We got to many passages that we just couldn't rectify anymore. As a Catholic, there's certain readings that they do at church and things like that, but you don't read the whole Bible. In fact, they don't really want you to. And I think it's because they wrote it. But anyway, it's but they don't really want you to, it's more about these specific readings and the idea behind it. And then the priest gets up there and does his gospel and the homily, and they teach you how to live a good life. And that's kind of what they want from you. So when we did go outside and start looking, and we read these Bible stories ourselves, and we asked questions about things that Jesus did, and then we asked questions about how is Jesus and God the same person when God says eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, and Jesus says turn the other cheek. We're like, hold on a second. These are two vastly different ideas. One is like, and one God killed people randomly and just, you touched the Ark of the Covenant, or you picked up sticks on the Sabbath, killing you.
Jail. You're playing music too loud, right to jail. You're driving too fast, jail. Slow, jail. You undercook fish, believe it or not, jail. You overcook chicken, also jail. You make an appointment with the dentist and you don't show up, believe it or not, jail, right away.
Then the other guy's like, no, we don't kill. And in fact, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So we had this disconnect there of how they could be the same people. And then we really got a disconnect when we just read like Leviticus and things like Deuteronomy, where there was just laws in there that just made no sense. If a guy rapes a girl, then he gives his father 50 shekels and marries her. It's like, wait, this is a direction from God. Like, how could that be? What if we had that rule today? Then you just have a bunch of ugly guys hiding behind trees, finding good-looking women, raping them. Here's your dad's 50 shekels, and you're now my wife. So we had problems with the whole thing. And that's when we kind of said, if we can find that part of this book is not divine, then really, why would we? You can read the whole thing if you want, take the good from it, but you can't say it's God's word. And there's things in there. One of the biggest ones for us too was Romans 13, I think, where it says, all government was placed there by God. And then it says to go against the government is to go against God. You'll bring condemnation to yourself, do it for conscience sake, blah, 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 blah. So, and really when we got away from the idea of listening to a pastor, listening to a priest, because of course they have their spin. Oh, well, they were taught that's written for the old days. And back then the governments did run like, okay. So once you got away from that and we said, no, it really should be able to be interpreted by us. That's when we realized, no, we can't jive this anymore. So we basically came out of that exercise as atheists. Okay. So I started getting into this.
Would you have said that? Would you have said that you were atheist?
Yep. I wanted to debate Christians because I wanted to tell them that they were wrong. We started watching Michio Kaku. We started watching, what's that guy's name? Sam Harris. We started watching Richard Dawkins. We started watching things like that.
All the bad guys.
Yeah. And as we started to watch them, we really became kind of militant about it. Right. So I was like going into Facebook groups and I was trying to argue with people that the Bible was wrong and that the evolution was true. So I did a little bit of research, at least enough to know how we date the earth and things like that. And I noticed right away, there was one day where I was in a Facebook forum and there was a guy who came on, his post was, the world is 6,000 years old, prove me wrong. something like that. And so all these people started, jumping in, leaving comments, and the comments were all, "You're a stupid idiot. You're a fool. We carbon date. That's how we know you're an idiot. You're dumb." And me looking at it was like, well, that's weird. All these people answering are not giving the correct answer. It's not carbon dating. It's not that. So I just popped in and said, hey, it's actually, they use radiometric dating, not carbon. Carbon only goes back. And then all of a sudden I was attacked by all these people saying, you stupid creationist, you idiot. I'm like, no, 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 I'm on your side. But what that really showed me, and my wife
Yeah.
too, we started seeing it, is that, wait a second, this is another religion. It's no different than the people in the Catholic religion or that are basically reciting dogma. And this is what this atheist side was doing. So then we just said, let's pull back completely. And we said, the only way we're ever going to be able to trust what we believe is to build it from the ground up ourselves. Okay. So don't adopt things as being true unless we can prove it to ourselves. And that was kind of our perspective. And I remember my wife asking questions like, well, what do you mean? Like, if we haven't been to a certain country, do we not believe it existed? No, because we can still go back and look at these documents and talk to people and see, okay, so we had this idea that listening to authority might not be the best thing, but that you can generally trust when a lot of people agree on something. So that was our kind of our take. And so right away, and I remember we said we are going to build it from the ground up. And I can still remember where we were sitting and what we were doing. And my wife looked out our window. We lived on a second floor of our house, and she was looking out. And we had this street view that was the street, and then it kind of went off in the distance. And she said, "Oh, do you think the Earth could be flat?" And I'm like, "What? No, that's ridiculous. What are you talking about?" She goes, "I was just wondering if we said we were going to build it from the ground up. So I'm just wondering if we should start there." I'm like, "No, some things are fundamentally true. Some things we know are true." And I said, "No, the Earth cannot be flat. How do planes go around it? So it's ridiculous. It's stupid." And she said, "Oh, sorry. Okay, whatever." So she left the room, and I just kind of was like, "What the hell is she?" We're not starting way back there. It's not like. So in that course of the next 2 or 3 weeks, I was deciding to research the moon landings because I felt like that was one of those things where if I could prove that the moon landing didn't happen, then that would mean we're lied to on a vast level, right? So that would mean that you can keep a lie for 50 years, that the government can hide things.
Why did you pick the moon landing out of all
I
of them?
think because I was trying to find something that was, like I said, how could we find evidence of something that the government's been holding some secret for a long time?
Okay.
And that was one where everybody says that we went to the moon. Everybody in the government, everybody in academia. And so, if I could somehow come to that conclusion myself that we did not, that would mean that you can't hold lies for a long time. So I'm looking at all these websites, and I just happens to go to Atlantean Conspiracy, which is Eric Dubé's website, and right on that first page was a picture of the AE flat Earth map. And I remember seeing that and looking at it, and then what hit me first was that I told my wife that she was dumb for saying, "Could the Earth be flat?" Because how would planes go around it? And then I'm looking at that map, and I'm thinking to myself, "Wait, plane can go around it. Plane can go around. It's like a dinner plate, but just going around the top of it." So I'm like, "Oh, shit." Like, and then I kinda said, "Wait, this can't be true." And I was trying to think of reasons in my head why, but I'd not done any kind of study. I didn't go to college. I went to college for about 3 weeks. So I didn't have any of that knowledge to really understand the way the universe works, the way the solar system works. And so when you come from a place of complete ignorance, it's very easy to adopt certain ideas that you think are true or to, I mean, in one of my early videos, I actually said, well, if the moon is traveling 66,000 miles per hour with and the Earth going around the sun, why don't we just go up in a rocket ship and wait for the moon to come? Why would you travel to the moon? Because I'm just clueless. I don't know. And that's in one of my videos. I was talking about that. So anyway, going back to us kind of reaching that conclusion. And then I told my wife, I had her come up and I said, look at this map and planes can go around it. And she's like really into it. And then we kind of felt from there, we're like, oh, if this is true, then God is true. And then we started to say, if God is true, then, and the Bible has been changed, and they would try, so we kind of started to like piece this world together in our own minds that had seen something that other people didn't see. And that we felt special. And I remember reading the Bible and even like thinking like, oh, maybe we're the 144,000. We're one of those, because we figured this out. So we kind of did feel like we had this special knowledge. And at the time, because we had got married and kind of, I don't want to say shunned friends, but we had kind of moved ourselves away from friends. We just spent time with each other. We had a long honeymoon period of years. And then at that point, I think that we might have both been looking for something, whether it was friendship or camaraderie or something outside of just our two. Not really sure if that's the case, but we were kind of sheltered in our house. So anyway, what happened was that we kind of came to the conclusion that could the Earth be flat? Yes, we think it could be. And she said, why don't you make videos, make YouTube videos? And I'm like, I don't even know how to do that. And I don't want my face on the screen, and I don't want to be the first one to ever, because we would search YouTube and there'd be nothing. There's nothing about flat Earth. So I'd say I don't want to be the first one that say this stuff. And she's like, okay. So for like this was in November of 2014 that I remember going to Thanksgiving dinner with my family, and we were sitting at the dinner table, and she kind of said, "Imagine if you told everybody we were flat earthers." And I was like, "Yeah, they would, laugh us out of the building." So that was kind of the first time I think that we would have said we would have accepted ourselves as flat earthers.
Real quick, I'm sorry. I want to go back to that. So do you have any siblings?
I had a sister. I have a sister,
An older sister?
younger, 3 years.
All right. And then are they all believers?
No, my wife's side of the family, yes, but my sister would be kind of like me, kind of like not practicing, grew up Catholic, but she had her master's degree. Yeah, so no, she wouldn't have anything to do with this at the time. I wouldn't even have mentioned it to family. I wouldn't have mentioned it outside of just my wife and I.
She had her master's in 2014?
My sister? Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So, and the other thing I didn't mention was that I was a store manager for a drugstore, CVS. I'm sure you've heard of that. You're from California?
Yeah.
I used to manage Long's Drugs. Remember Long's?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah. So then in 2008, I think it was 2008, we were purchased by CVS. So I started working there in 1999, and real quickly, because I had just become a single father at the age of 20, I needed to make more money. And so I went to my store manager and said, "Hey, how can I move up in the ranks?" And he said, "Well, you got to do this and be on time and never be." So within like 6 months, I was given keys to the store to where I was a department manager. So I would open the store in the morning, close the store at night. Real quickly after that, I became assistant manager. So I want to say this is probably 2001. I was an assistant manager, and I loved it. It was the way that the stores ran, the way that the manager was with employees, the way that employees were with customers was a true smart way to run business at the time. It was put the customer first. The customer's always right. Help out employees if they're happy, they'll be better employees for you. So I just really fell in love with that kind of ecosystem. So in 2002, the store manager at the time there had to go on a leave for like 6 months. And so the district manager came in and he said, "Do you think you can handle the store as an acting store manager? If you do really well, it'll be great for your career. And if not, well, then you just weren't ready. Go back to being a." So I said, "Yeah, I want to do it." So I ran the Gilroy store for 6 months and did great and loved it because they even tell you like run the store like it's your own. And if you do great, we'll promote you. And if you do bad, you're going to get fired. But make as much money as you can while keeping the customers happy, while keeping the employees happy. So that was a great environment because you really could get away with anything. You weren't worried that you might get fired. You weren't worried. You just, you could always have that. I was trying to help this customer. I was whatever. So I fell in love with it. And then when that manager got back, they promoted me to store manager in Salinas of the Alisal store. So I go there. That's about 2003. I was the youngest store manager in Long's history at 23. So when I went there, they said, "Hey, this store lost money last quarter. We don't know how. We don't know why. Please find out. That's why we're putting you here." So I just started reviewing videotapes and this and that. Well, I found a huge theft ring that was going on, which was basically one of the managers would have friends and family come in at a certain time at night, go through his checkout register with baskets full, and just ring up $20, $30, fake ringing up items, put a piece of paper over the scanner bed and do this so that it looks like you're scanning. So anyway, once we got them and they admitted to like $160,000 in theft, which, they always say people admit to 1/10 of what they actually stole. So anyway, that made them very happy. The store returned to profitability. By 2005, they came in and said, "Hey, we've got the store on Fremont Street opening up in Monterey." Huge, huge raise. I went from making like 70,000 a year to making like 90,000 a year plus a huge bonus potential. So I was in Monterey until we got sold to CVS. Now, and that's actually where I met my wife. Anyway, so being there and being under that Long's idea, I became in love with the idea of the customer's always right, the golden rule of selling, the golden rule of living, do unto others as you want done to you. And when CVS took over, they came in and they said, "We're not going to make any changes. We love the way that Long's runs. We love the way that Long's is. We don't want to make any changes." Oh, thank God. Okay, great. But then slowly, month after month after month, we're putting carpet in. We're doing this. We're doing that. We're changing the name. So then you realize real quick that you now are part of a corporation. And they did the most ridiculous things that I've ever seen a company do. And I learned to hate them. I won't even go into a CVS to this day because they don't care about anybody but the bottom line. So then I got promoted to the Salinas Alisal store. And when I say promotion, that's because that's the biggest store in our district. It's on Main Street in Salinas, 24-hour pharmacy. And so the best potential for And the other reason they put me there too is because the manager that was there never really transitioned it over to CVS. He kind of was one of the old school guys, like, screw you. So he ended up leaving. They put me there, and then they're like, now you have to get this to CVS ready. So the first thing they said is anybody making over $16 an hour that's not in management needs to go. And it's like, wait, what? Some of our best cashiers make $18, $20 an hour. They're like, nope, we don't allow people to make that much if they're not growing. So tell them to go. So it's like, but these are my best employees. Customers come in for them. They're never late. They're never sick. They know what to do. I don't have to help. Oh no, you got to hire. It's like, well, I'd rather have that person than 2 8. They didn't care what I had to say. This isn't, you don't get to, we don't want you to think. Another thing that they did was my district manager came in and he's like, where's the front cap, the front end? Well, this was actually when I was in Monterey, but he said, where's the front end cap of snow shovels? And I'm like, yeah, I thought that was a joke. I just left it in the back room. What are we going to put that up? He's like, oh, no. You're going to get written up because CVS has a deal with that company that it will be in the front end cap of every single store. I said, this is Monterey, California. We're not putting snow shovels and snow salt on the front end. People will laugh at us. And he's like, you have to put it up. I'm like, unbelievable. So there were so many things I disagree with. By the way, every store is the exact same. So like the way Long's ran, the Carmel store, much different than the Gilroy store. The Gilroy store had golfing aisles because people golf in Gilroy. The Monterey store had local wines up the wazoo, right? So things like that. You were able to craft the store. Well, they didn't do. They got rid of all that. It's all cookie cutter. It's all the same wines in every store. So I just real quickly realized and told my wife, like, I'm hating this. Like, I'm hating working here. And so this is now 2011, and we get engaged. We're going to get married in November, and by like I guess like a month before that, so this would be October-ish 2011. I got written up for the first time ever, and it was about excess inventory in the back room. And I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, it's October. I said, so my store is the number one, what they call seasonal store. So the store that does the most seasonal. So whether it's Valentine's, Halloween, Christmas. So anyway, I just was like, I can't believe you written me up for this. The first time I've ever been written up for anything. Got a verbal warning. So then I went on my honeymoon, which was that November of 2011. And when I got back, or actually when I was on my honeymoon, I got a call. They're like, oh, the loss prevention manager came in the middle of the night and wrote a bunch of people up and is really upset. Like, what? And I'm like, why would they come in when they knew I was going to be gone? Like, number one, like things like that always piss me off because if I'm the store manager and you're actually working together, then you should tell me, hey, we want to do an audit. So anyway, they came in and they found a bunch of my employees laughing and joking around and not working. So they wrote everybody up, and then they gave me a written warning for the condition of the store overnight. And I'm kind of like pissed. And I asked my district manager, what's going on? He's like, oh, it's like, it feels like it's a smear campaign. Like, what? So I was like having these issues, like, what's going on here? So then the following week, when I called loss prevention and said, hey, can you come in and tell me what you saw that was, so they came in and they're like, oh, this and that. And they said, we're going to give you a final warning. And I'm like, for what? Like, because I'm questioning whether, so I was like livid, but then I realized, thinking about it, I was like, oh God. So when I was a store manager, they taught me, you can get rid of anybody you want, fire anybody you want, but go through these channels. You have to give them a verbal, wait a week, give them a written, wait a week, give them a final, wait a week, terminate them. That's what you have to do. If you don't have those steps in place, then you're going to get in trouble. So then I'm looking at my resume of the last 3 months. I'm like, wait, I've gotten a verbal, a written, a final. They're going to fire me. At that same time, I was training a store manager, which I used to be a store manager trainer. So they would have a guy come in, follow me around for 3 weeks, then he'd go off and manage somewhere else. So I asked that guy, I'm like, what did they hire you at? He's like, 48,000. I'm like, oh my God, I'm training a guy making half as much money as I am. So I'm like, I'm on my way out. And so I was just talking to my wife and I'm like, I don't know what I should do. Let him fire me. And then I can go for, and I was like, or I can keep my job history and quit. And she's like, well, we can make it work. We'll figure it out. I'm like, yeah, you're right. So I put in my 2 weeks, left, and I still have that job history. You can call CVS and say, yeah, Jeran, he worked here for 15 years. He's got good, left on good terms, everything. So I left the company and my wife and I were like, what are we going to do? Well, we had this huge book collection that we had accumulated, and it was also from a dying relative that we got this huge books. We had all these books. So we said, let's run an online bookstore and we'll treat it like we should. Customer's always right. So we start doing, by the way, I didn't tell you, we bought a house in March of 2011. So we had just bought a house and now I'm quitting my job. Right. So we go and we start trying to, so the reason that's important to this whole story is that we had time, right? I didn't have a job anymore. She didn't have a job. We were at home all the time in our house that we bought, and we had inventoried the entire book collection. And then we forgot about the thing of how do you get customers? This is our first time on the internet. We don't even really know what's going on. And you just can't, if you just start a store and put it up there, nobody goes there. They don't even know it exists. So we were like having all this time to where, what are we going to do? And luckily, I always thank God for this company called Onello. They contacted us and said, hey, we have this app. It's not even around anymore. You can't even get it anymore. But it's like, we have this app and we're going to include a bunch of items from all these different stores. And then you just give us 5% of each sale. So would you like to join this app? Sure. Well, we started doing 3, 4, 5 sales a day. And it was only because of that app. It was all from the app. It was fine paying the 5%. So it was at least busy enough that my wife had stuff to do every day. She would wake up, look at the orders, pack the shipments, get them ready to go. So she had things to do. But the store was inventoried. So there wasn't much for me to do. So I was able to start researching just because you're bored, I guess. I don't really know. And I think this COVID had a lot to do with where we are in the world with truth right now, because a lot of people were put in that same situation, no longer working. So they're at home, they got the internet, this wealth of information, they're able to look things up themselves, quote unquote, right? So that's why we were able to kind of start getting into the question about religion, to research. Because remember, this is 2011. I quit my job in 2012, and it wasn't until 2015 I made my first YouTube video. So during that 3 years, it was like research. Our beliefs are all over the place. We didn't know what we were doing. So then, as I was searching Flat Earth for months and months and months, then February came and I searched Flat Earth, and sure enough, this thing comes up, Flat Earth Clues. Like, oh, this is new. I'll watch this. Like 5 minutes into the first show, I like ran downstairs and got my wife, said, you have to come up and watch this. She came up, we were sitting on the bed and we binge watched, I think he released the first 4. And we watched and we said, this is it. This is the answer. This is what everything, this is why the world sucks. This is why everyone's so confused and lost and everybody doesn't believe in God, because they should know that we live on a flat earth. And if they knew that, they would know that it's created. And if you know it's created, then you wouldn't believe the lies of science, and you wouldn't believe in evolution, because evolution only makes sense in a Big Bang paradigm. So from there, we were able to really kind of put in our own minds that we were right about flat earth. And then with Mark Sargent's videos coming out, she said, now will you make videos? And I said, you know what? I didn't ever think of the way he's doing it, which is we don't see his face. We see images and him talking. I said, I can do that. I can figure that out. So I went out and I remember buying whether it was $2 or $3, I don't remember. It was a Pinnacle.
Yep. I use that.
Yeah. I got that from like a Goodwill, came home, installed it, uploaded images and started speaking and put out my first video. Okay. And named the channel Jeranism because it was like, this is our belief. We're building our belief from the ground up. We don't want anybody to follow or anything. It's just my belief. It's Jeranism. My wife's would be Missa-ism. Yours would be. So anyway, it's just adding ism to your name. So this is going back to your very first question, which was, is this what happened to you? Well, what happened to me was after I put out that first video, you get comments, you get subscribers, and it went from 0 subscribers to 15, right? And people were in the comments saying like, wow, this is brilliant. I never thought of things this way. What you're saying makes a lot of sense. Keep going. And so you get all this encouragement. And then you get a couple haters that would be in there like, you effing retard. You don't procreate, drink bleach. So people just need to recognize that if somebody sees 8 comments that say how great you are and 2 comments telling you you're an idiot, that your brain doesn't even know how to fathom, oh, these 2 are right and these 8 are wrong. It's because you're like, no, we must be on the right track. Look at these people's comments. They're saying how great we are. They like us. I'm funny. They're like, so then that just continued to grow.
And I also like to think though that like if they didn't say, don't procreate and drink bleach, if they like made a more even criticism of the facts, I feel like that could be weighed maybe along with the others. But when you've got like, these are obviously the good guys, they're nice guys, and then you've got these jerks, like it's obvious who the good guys and who the bad guys are. Like I'm obviously on track because 100% of my comments tell me that I'm on the right track. And I've got 0 comments that tell me that any of the good guys have any criticism of what I'm thinking.
Right. And that you also think of it, and remember, you just come to this terms of a flat earth is true, which means God is true, which means that anybody who's not for God is against you. And then you're looking at these comments and you're like, oh, I bet you these are the godly people and these are the atheists. And sure enough, it turns out that's the case. So you're like, how could it be any more picture perfect setup for what you're actually thinking the world is like now at that time? So then you grow from there, and now picture you've got people inviting you to speak at a conference. Hey, we're doing a Flat Earth conference. We'd love for you to speak. We're going to fly you out there, put you up in a hotel, buy all your food, blah, blah, blah. Come on out. Okay, I'll go out there. Then you go there and there's people waiting in lines to talk to you. There's people that are waiting for your speech then so they can come up and you're so smart. I love everything you're doing. You've changed my life. You are just getting more and more. And now people might ask, did at any time you ever feel like you could be wrong? Sure, of course, right? But what you do is as you're going through, once you get to a certain point, it's like, well, now for me to back off of this, it's going to take real proof, which good, it should. So if I'm wrong, then bring it to my face and show me so that I can know that I'm wrong, go from there. But nobody would bring anything like that. In fact, every time they had an opportunity, to me, they dropped the ball. And I still struggle with this a little bit. I don't know if you've ever seen, there's a Stephen Hawking documentary called Genius, where he's going to prove the shape of the earth. He takes 3, what he calls ordinary people, and they're going to do these tests and figure out the shape of the earth. So sure enough, the whole show takes place. The 3 ordinary people, once you look into them, one of them, this girl, Kat Bobineau, she says in the show, she says, wow, I can't believe I figured that out. I'm not a scientist and da-da-da-da-da.
It worked. I'm not a scientist, and to be able to just do that off a whim, that's incredible.
And then we researched her, and a year before that, she's on a PBS television show saying,
My name is Kat Bobineau, and I am a scientist.
she's a scientist. And then you've got this girl, I can't remember her first name, something Nguyen is her last name, and she's an ordinary person. That's how they introduced her on the show. You look her up, she's the head video storyteller at Goddard Space Center. Not an ordinary person. And the third guy, Jim Fitzsimmons, was a teacher. Okay, great. He could be an ordinary person. In that documentary, they say, okay, we're going to measure the curvature of the earth because we're going to fly this helicopter 6 miles away. It's going to get lower down, and then it's going to hide behind 6 miles worth of water. And then we're going to have a guy with a telescope. He's not going to be able to see the helicopter. And then when it rises back up, that'll be the shape of the earth. How did you hide the helicopter over there? Sure enough, they do this test. They lower it. Whatever. When we went back and looked at it, it was, and this is the most definitive I can say about anything. When I tell you this, because many people might hear this and go, oh, he's lying. It is 100% fake, the experiment. Okay, and we know that because there's a scene where the helicopter is coming down, hiding behind the water, and then the one where it's coming up from behind the water is the exact same, meaning every wave, when you overlay them, it's the exact same. So what they had to do was CGI the helicopter. Now, at this point, I have a reason for that. The reason why is because at 6 miles, they do the math on the screen. They say, oh, at 6 miles, there's a 24-foot drop. And the helicopter's not 20 foot high, so when it lowers, it'll go behind the water, whatever. The part they missed is that it's a 6 mile, 24-foot drop if you're at 0 eye height. But they had a telescope. It was 3 or 4 feet high. When you put that in, the actual drop is like 8 feet. Okay, and you're over water, so there's refraction lifting up the other side of the water. So what that equates to is you'll never hide a helicopter behind 6 miles worth of water. It's impossible. So they must have got out there to do the test. They kept lowering the damn helicopter. It wouldn't hide. And they just said, we'll fix it in post.
Well, I would assume that they just ran the calculations and then went and captured some footage, like, because you see that in educational videos.
Right. And that's where I realize now, right? It's not a scientific test.
But when they present it as if it is, then
Sure.
that leaves room for
Right.
this silliness. Yeah.
And I've always said, I was
that's
like, well, how, even if I didn't realize that the earth was a ball, how would I ever explain why not just do a real experiment? Why not just really prove it? So there's lots of things that happen like that throughout. There's a Nat Geo show where they came and they showed a boat going off into the distance and all this stuff. And Mark Sargent was there live and everything. Well, we ended up finding out that they used an optical illusion, which is the way they painted this board was so that your eyes would tell you where the middle of the board was, but it was incorrect. And so anyway, that's another one where I was just like, oh man, these guys are just lying everywhere. And why would you lie about the truth? Right. So from there, I just knew that, that we must be right. We're on the right track. What are 500, 600 people showing up at a conference for? If you kind of imagine yourself, I just didn't picture that people would be going and speaking at a conference and be wrong. Like the whole conference is wrong. Everything that, so it just wasn't something that you really can allow yourself to even comprehend. Now, after you've been there 5, 6 years, 7 years, you've now been to 3, 4 conferences. People know you. People like you. The only thing I started to notice was that the flat earth was kind of imploding. And this was because if anybody came along and were new and started putting out videos, and they might think they're a better video maker than me, but if they didn't get the views I get, then I must be a shill. Even though they don't pay attention to the fact I've been here for 6 years, I've got way more subscribers. Oh, if he's got that many subscribers, then he's a shill because he bought them. So it was this implosion from inside to where now it became attacking each other. Everybody was attacking. You didn't care anymore about the experiments. You didn't care. It was in each other. And then there was ideas like this idea of what gravity is. You had one side saying it was relative density. You had the other side saying it was electrostatics. And it became this infight. Whereas, I was trying to be a police guy and be like, hey, we'll worry about that once the world knows the earth's flat. Like, we don't need to, nope, it was a fighting between each other. Then you have these segregation of groups where, oh, we're on team this and we're on team that. And so everybody's fighting for that same audience. And it became just a mess, right? It just became a mess. So that's where I would place it. not around the time that I went to Antarctica, because that was the way it was for the last 3-4 years of being a flat earther, to where it was just trying to keep your head above water, trying to keep everybody happy, trying to, that was kind of it. And so, yeah, so ultimately when you asked if I was the same way, yes, I mean, it became my identity. It became who I was. I was a flat earther. I was, I got recognized on the street only twice in my life, but where somebody came up and knocked on my car window one time, and my wife and I were sitting there. We were like, "Well, yes, are you Jeran from Jeranism?" It's like, "Yeah, how did
Wow.
you know that?" Right? So, and then we had a bumper sticker on the back that said "woke," and it had like a picture of the flat Earth map. And so she's like, "Oh, I saw the bumper sticker." Anyway, so you just start to feel really high on yourself. Then, so from 2014, 15, when I made my first video, until about 2018, I didn't make any money. Okay, you couldn't make money on YouTube that quickly. You would have to gain first your subscribers, and then you'd have to do it. But once I started making money, it was decent money. It was $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month.
So, okay,
Yeah.
but in this whole interim, like, is there a baby? Is there
Nope.
a bookstore? Is there what's going on?
Sure, we had the bookstore the whole time. The bookstore ran, it was called UBBK, which was Unbelievable Books, just shortened. And so the bookstore was there. It wasn't making much, like I said, 3, 4, 5 sales a day, which was enough to kind of keep us close. And then I didn't mention this, but from 2013 and 14, when I said I had time to research, I needed to find something to make money. Well, this is right when Bitcoin was becoming big. And I applied with this company called BitScan and became their head of safety and security writer. There's writing articles. So I just learned a lot about Bitcoin, wrote a lot of articles, and then they paid me, and you're going to laugh at this. They paid me 0.3 Bitcoin per article. So today that's what, $25,000 per article. So now at the time, Bitcoin was worth $400. So it was actually getting paid about $125 per article. But I was able to accumulate about 50 Bitcoin. They were in our wall safe. And then as Bitcoin went up to $1,000, we cashed a few out. When it went up to 1,500, cash a few more. 2,000, cash a few more. So we lived off the Bitcoin basically from 2014 through 2017 until we exhausted the last one when it was sold for like 2,100. So, and then it goes, up, and then you're like, oh boy, I'm an idiot. But I also want people, because people don't recognize that that's what happens to everybody. There's nobody who just holds on. If you bought Bitcoin at $1, it's like, oh, somebody who bought it at $1 is now worth, no. If they bought it at $1, they sold it when it was 10. If you buy it at 10, you sell it when it's 50. Nobody's holding on, unless you could be rich and maybe you do that, but you can't do that when you're somebody who's, lowly. So we were able to live through that with the Bitcoin. And so that puts us basically at the time of running out of money from Bitcoin around 2017, 2018. And that's when the revenue, or what do you call it, ad partners kicked in. And then I was doing good views. I mean, at that time, I could put out a video and get 25, 30,000 views quick. And so when you do that and you put a bunch of ads in there, all of a sudden your videos are worth $300, $400, $500. And so you're able to make $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month pretty easily. I mean, I was able to put out videos. I would have to do interviews. You'd have to stay on top of things. You'd have to research. I did a show on Sundays called Globebusters. You had a pretty regular schedule where I would have put out a video. And this goes back in that time. I don't remember when live stream came in, but there was no live streaming when I started, right? It was just videos. And the good thing about that is that people had to actually sit down, research, put together a video, and put it out there well packaged. And that's much different than today, where people can go live in a second. So take the Charlie Kirk situation, for example. When he gets shot, if this was back in 2015, people would have to sit down, piece things together, come up with a video, look at evidence. Whereas what happened in this one is that everybody just went live and they could say whatever they wanted. And then people that are watching it take that as truth. And before you know it, everybody believes garbage. So this was much different times, but the money was good. It was keeping us above water. We were doing a podcast on Monday nights with TFR Radio, which is Truth Frequency Radio, and they invited us. So they came. Truth Frequency Radio is the name of the radio station. They had a whole bunch of Brooks Agnew and whistleblowers from different avenues. They all had shows there. Rob Skiba had a show there. But there was a bunch of people with shows. They reached to us, said, we would love for you and your wife to come and have a show. You can have Monday nights. Fantastic. And we even made, maybe it was $100, $200 on that show. So everything looked really great. I would get taken to conferences. I went to a couple experiments. And so things were really good. Now, if you go back to Behind the Curve, which was in the middle there, like 2017, 2018, that's one where they just called me and basically said, hey, we've been talking to these other flat earthers. We heard you're doing an experiment. Can we come film it? And I said, yeah, it would be great, actually, because I was wondering who's going to film it. I'm going to be doing the experiment. So they came, they filmed it. We had trouble the first night. The second night, we had that period of time where I said interesting.
We don't see you, Enrique. Lift up your light way above your head. Interesting.
That all happened. And then we all walked away saying nothing was proven here. And then they make a movie where they take me out of context, put me at the end of the movie. And then I'm hated for that. So then the flat earth community hated me as, oh, you're a shill. You did this on purpose, which is just like, no, I believe in this. This is the truth. I'm going to keep pushing. So that's basically what took us all the way till eventually I told my wife I didn't want her on the internet anymore because of the attacks that we were getting. So then we had a baby in 2020. So she was off taking care of the baby. I'll take care of this. And life was good for the most part. And then, I guess it was early 2024 that Dave Weiss had called me and said, hey, watch this video by this pastor. So I watched it. I'm like, oh, it seems very remedial. And he's like, yeah, well, he wants to do a debate against me, but I'm in Mexico. So I suggested he do a debate with Austin Whitsitt. So he said, will you have it on your show? Like, sure. He's like, okay, here's the pastor's phone number. Call him, work it out. Okay, great. So I call this pastor, Will Duffy, and say, hey, I hear you want to debate Austin Whitsitt on my show. Yeah, I do. Okay. So he comes on my show. We do this debate. That's the first time I met Will Duffy, and basically the last time I had any contact with him at that time. Then mid 2024, all these videos start coming out saying there's some new channel. It's called The Final Experiment. They're going to be using invitees from the Flat Earth and the whatever. I kind of ignore it because I'm like, I don't even know what it's about. Then it turns out it says, oh, this is going to be about going to Antarctica. Then I'm kind of interested, but at the same time, I know Antarctica, you can't go there. Flat Earth, there's a treaty, right? You can't go there. They don't let people tour there. So this is a joke. And it's just going to be another thing that reveals that it's a joke. I don't know if you know this, but there's a guy named Greater Sapien. He, this is probably, I don't remember the year exactly. I want to say it was 2022. Could be wrong about that. But he came out and said, hey, there's a flight that's going to be going around the North and South Pole. It's a circumnavigation flight. They're taking ticket right now. The tickets are $20,000. You get to do all this stuff, whatever. So I'm looking at that. I'm like, that'll never happen. It's a joke. I made a video saying this is a joke. They can't even make that plane flight if they tried. Sure enough, it ends up being that they stole his money. It was a joke. So that's kind of what I got used to seeing, is that anytime somebody's going to go and prove the shape of the earth, it's going to be a lie. It's going to be some sort of false. It's going to be a fake. And so that was kind of my opinion. So when then it gets revealed that Will Duffy is the one behind the Final Experiment channel, and he comes out and basically says, I'm inviting these people. We're going to go to Antarctica. I'm just laughing at him. I even made a video that was called Don't Get McDuffied, where I said, hey, this guy's a joke. He's, this is not real, that you're not going to be able to go on this trip. It's just, he'll find that out and blah, blah, blah. So then he starts coming back and talking about the trip, and I'm noticing some things that he's saying that kind of make me think that the guy seems to be honest. First of all, he's a pastor. So I'm like, all right, I don't think he's faking that. I look him up. I see he's a pastor. He's also was the he was the producer of a radio show that was head by Bob Enyart, a show I used to watch a lot or listen to. And I was like, oh, I love Bob. Bob was great. So I'm like, okay, maybe this Will guy's not so bad. So then he starts talking about, he found a Antarctica logistics company that will take you to 80 degrees south, a place called Union Glacier. You can go there. It happens every year, blah, blah, blah. So I start looking into them. I'm kind of looking like, okay, they actually do kind of seem legit, but I still don't think it happens. I still think it's just a front. So then he puts out a poll to everyone, says, okay, I'm going to take one flat earther with me for free. Who do you want it to be? Overwhelmingly, it's Dave Weiss. I think he got like 60% of the vote. So they asked Dave Weiss, and he turns it down and says, I'm not going on that trip. I'm not dealing with demons. And I was like upset. I was like, Dave, just go find out what's going on. Find out in Antarctica. Like, so if people don't realize this, in the beginning, so going way back 2014, we all knew what the South meant. Because if the South is the opposite of the North, the Earth's a globe. If the South is different than they teach us, then the Earth could be flat. If it expands, if it's different, if there's no 24-hour sun there, and there's lots of little things you can bring up, like how come in the North there's lots of little animals and trees and things, but in the South there's nothing. So now you picture the flat Earth map, which is like there's a sun that goes around the inside. Well, the outside would be freezing cold, whereas the inside would be a little cold, but it could be a place that plants could still grow. So there's lots of things that makes you go, oh, I don't know if you know this one, but that when it's winter here, our sun is closer to the Earth. When it's summer, the sun is further away. Now that's just for us in the North. In the South, it's the opposite, of course. But that was one where we're like, wait a second, that doesn't seem to make sense. Like in the summer, the sun's way up right above me and it's super hot. And in the winter, it's way over there and it's very cold. So when you look at the flat Earth map, which is when the sun is on its inside track during our summer, it's like really close to the United States. And then when it goes to the outside track, it's far away from the United States. So there's a lot of things that made me think, wait, this is a better model. It makes more sense with seasons because, again, they don't even really teach people what the seasons come from because it's a little weird in the globe, which is that we're tilted. We're going around the sun. And when the north is pointed to the sun, it's our summer. And when the north is pointed away, it's our winter. And so, but the earth is actually 3 million miles closer during our winter, which just, again, now it makes sense to me. But at the time, I just was, this is more evidence that they're crazy and that they don't, what they believe doesn't exist. And so things like little things that you can, and this is something I've noticed, it's very easy to, if somebody's uneducated, right? So let's say you didn't go to college or nothing. I could have a conversation with you where I can make you doubt the globe because I could say, oh, you believe it? Well, why do you believe it? Well, because because you were taught it, right? Okay. But you don't know anything. You have nothing else besides what you were taught. Okay. Well, do you feel like you're spinning 1,000 miles per hour right now? Do you feel like that? Have you ever been in a car going 60 miles per hour? Do you think you're spinning 1,000 miles per hour? So in a quick 10 minutes, I can make a family member, a friend, or anybody. Now they're like, wait, what? What do you mean that? I was like, yeah, okay. You think 1,000 miles is crazy? We're going around the sun right now, 66,000 miles per hour. And they're like, no, we're not. Go look it up. And you think that's crazy? We're going around the Milky Way at 480,000 miles per hour. And if you think that's crazy, we're going around the universe at 1.2 million miles per hour. So it's very easy to get them to. And then I say, have you ever measured curve? Have you ever seen curvature? Go look at the ocean. It's perfectly flat. So these are things that are very easy to teach. And actually being smart takes work. It doesn't take one-liners that you learned in 3 seconds that you get to go around and use as answers for everything, which is what Flat Earth believes. So they all say, you can't tell the shape of the ground by looking at lights in the sky. It's cool sounding. It flows off the tongue.
It'd be better if it rhymed, but that's about
right.
it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're able to say that and answer it. So if you bring up anything about the sky, well, how come the stars rotate in opposite directions? Can't tell the shape of the ground by looking at lights in the sky. Oh, okay. So it's all these little one-liners that space is fake. That is not intelligent to say space is fake. It is the easiest, quickest answer for anything that somebody says, well, what about the planets? What about space is fake? Oh, well, but no. So what it is it's like the Mecca for dumb people. It's the Mecca for lazy people where they can show up, they can take a couple word sentence, they can now go combat people that went to college and make them look silly.
So I want to push back here just a little bit because
Sure.
Give you my perspective on it and see how it resonates. It feels to me, because I've been to college, and a lot of what I learned there is that people who graduate from college are not necessarily smart.
Right.
I've gotten a lot less respect for my degree now that I have one, because I realize how easy it was to get it. And I saw my classmates, and some of us weren't trying.
Right.
We still made it through. But I do see like I walk around with not a disrespect for people who haven't gone to college. However, my friends who haven't been to college, I feel like there is an almost universal insecurity that they've got more respect for my degree than I do, and they feel like, well, if I would have gone to college, then that would have proved that I was smart or something like that. And so I feel like whether it's religion or flat Earth or whatever, just in any uneducated, and it's not even uneducated, but like for people who haven't gone to college, whatever that's called, for people who haven't had a higher education, there is this like inferiority complex of like, I need to prove that I am as smart as that person or something like that. And so. Feel like that's why a lot of those things are catchier in those groups. It has nothing to do necessarily with intellect as much as it does with like your self-perception or insecurities about your own intellect. I don't know.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that if you're going to believe something, it takes research. It takes understanding. And I think people who went to college probably understand that much at least.
I don't think so.
Well, let me give an example of my sister. She went to school for art history. Okay. But her talk to me whenever I would say the earth is flat, she would just say simply that the chances that all of professors in physics are wrong and miss this, and a couple guys from YouTube got it, is impossible. So she would just leave it at that. She said, I'm not even going to look into it because what you're saying is that all the physicists, and she said, that's hundreds of thousands of physicists in the world, that they all missed something so blatant and simple that you and a couple of your buddies who didn't go to college figured out. And at the time, I would just dismiss her. Whatever, you could think that. Well, they're indoctrinated. They all went to the same school. They all learned the same thing. So of course they could learn something that was wrong. But I think that also I should recognize that I didn't do like the kind of research that would be necessary to actually fully understand a subject. If you're going to read a book, but you're looking for flat Earth in it, and you're reading all about the globe, da, 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 and then you get to one little paragraph and you pull that out and you make a video about it, that's a problem. Because what you're doing, go ahead.
I feel like you just described Christianity.
Well, no, and that's my opinion of Christianity now.
But
So-
there are a lot of people who graduated from college, like 80% of people who graduate, well, maybe not 80%, but high percentage of people who graduate from college believe in a virgin birth and other things that should be more silly than a flat earth. And I don't mean that to
Good point.
insult them. I just mean as far as,
I would look at it that way too, right? Because especially when the Bible says, test all things. Okay, well, let's go test and see who rises from the dead. Well, you're not going to get very far. You're going to get to zero. So if we're testing all things, then it would be possible that would happen. Or you could walk on water. We can go test that. And many times as we want, nobody will ever walk on water unless they're Chris Angel and they have a plastic plexiglass under there. So I don't want to say that, because again, I think you said this in your Dave Weiss, or maybe it was with Dave Farina. You said you have a hard time placing yourself because of the fact that you didn't have some IQ rise when you realized that you were wrong. It was just like a brain thing, right? And so for me, it's the same. It's not like I'm saying, when I say these people are not very smart, am I saying that I was back then not very smart and now I am smart? No, because that would be impossible. That you don't become smart that way. It's not like that's the way it works. But I think what happens is that you pigeonhole yourself. And I think your brain, and this is what I've tried to explain to people, my brain put up a mental block to where once you are satisfied with your belief system, great, I'm a flat earther, these people like me, I'm going to make videos, I'm going to go to these conferences. Your brain puts up a block where it's saying anything coming from outside of that is wrong. It's coming from Satan. It's coming from whatever. And so you don't even hear things. And one of the reasons I figured this out or saw this blatantly was when I went back and watched the Will Duffy against Austin Whitsitt debate. Will said 3 or 4 things in that debate that were absolutely globe proof. They were absolute flat earth killers. And guess what? I didn't hear them.
Everyone who's deconverted out of Christianity has the same experience. Like you go back and you're like, wait, are you saying that Bill Nye won that debate? But
right.
I watched it.
Right.
And you rewatch all this stuff. You read the books. Like you go to Sam Harris and you go, oh, this guy's maybe not evil in all the ways I thought that he was. Maybe
Correct.
Richard Dawkins wasn't a moron. Maybe
I think Richard Dawkins is a moron, but that's myself.
I said maybe. Said maybe.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm not a big fan of that guy. But no, I totally agree with what you're saying. So it is a mental block, and it's something that's very hard to describe because when it's not there, it's not there. So now if I watch any debate, flat earthers are smoked. They look so goofy to me. They look so silly. But I guarantee you, if I would have watched that debate before, I would have said they won. And this is when it happened to me, so I had a debate with Austin Whitsitt, where this is after we got back from Antarctica, 6 months to the day, and we did a debate on his channel.
Real quick, was there anybody else? Because Dave's apparently, according to your recounting of the story, Dave was offered it and Dave said no. What other steps were there before it was offered to you?
Well, I came in second place in that poll. So it was Dave Weiss 60%, I think me like 17%, and Austin Whitsitt like 16%. And that was really close between Austin and I. So Will reached out and said, hey, you got second place. Dave already declined it. Do you want to go to Antarctica with me? And I was like, man, it sounds great and everything in theory, but I'm like, but no, because he had also offered it like anybody can go who wants to go. So you just have to buy your ticket. So I'm like, what sounds like it's going to happen to me is a bunch of people who have money, Globers, are going to buy tickets on this trip, and it's going to end up being 8 people and me. And I'm like, I don't like that idea. I don't like the situation I'd be put in. And I'm like, I don't feel safe. That he's like, what are you saying? I don't know. I said, if 8 of us go down there and it's me and 7 Globers and I have a heart attack, nobody's going to give a shit. Nobody's going to even look into it. They're just going to be like, Jeran had a heart attack. And I started thinking in my head, but if 2 of us go, so if it's 7 Globers and Jeran and Austin, then it can't be the same. If I have a heart attack, Austin's going to be there to say, no, he didn't. He got taken away to this place, whatever. Or they're not going to be able to come back and say Jeran and Austin had heart attacks. So I just kind of felt safer. So when he asked me, I'm like, I would say no. I said, if you could ever consider taking 2 people and it was 2 flat earthers, come back and talk to me. He's like, well, what do you mean? Who would you go with? Anybody? I'm like, not necessarily anybody. I said, I'm not big fans of Nathan Oakley. I'm not big fans of these people. I wouldn't go with them. I said, but somebody like Austin Whitsitt, he's like, so if I take Austin as well, he's like, he came in 3rd place right behind you. So if I take you and Austin, then you would go? Like, yeah, if you could convince Austin to go, I would go.
This makes perfect sense to me, knowing the fear of the outside world personally, but also like trying to imagine this from Will Duffy's perspective. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, if you had a heart attack, you think I wouldn't take care of you? You think I'd let you die? Like,
They were
What
so
kind of
confused.
insane world have you created in your head where I just like, I'm okay with you dying, and yet I can totally relate to the like, well, I don't want to be like in a room full of atheists. Like, I have no idea what's going to happen to me. That's a scary proposition.
Right. Especially people that hate you, that have hated you for years. Maybe Will Duffy doesn't hate me, but certainly the people that are going to sign up to go on this trip with me are not because they like me. Okay. So I was just kind of like standoffish. And then, I had to ask my wife and talk to her as it started to get more serious. And then he got Austin. Well, so then he asked Austin in an interview on his channel, and he said, hey, Jeran said he would go if you would go. Would you do that? And then Austin said, I would only go if you went. Because what Duffy had said is that he originally was going to do him and one flat earther, so he'd have to pay for those 2 tickets. Then when I said I wanted a second person to go, he said, okay, then it would be Jeran and Austin and Dave McKeegan, who won from the Globe side. So then it was like he wasn't going to go. So then when Austin and I were talking, he's like, why would we go on this trip that this guy created that he's not even going to go on? He has to go with us. And he's like, and we would put into any kind of contract that we have to travel together. We can't ever get separated. So, but then Austin and I were talking, we're like, they're going to cancel this trip. So we're like, let's be a part of it, because we'll be a part of it and we'll get to say, haha, they're going to cancel this trip. And sure enough, they'll cancel it and we'll be heroes and it'll be great. So we kind of talked about, do we want somebody else to do it? And we're like, let's say the trip does happen and they're going down to full flat earthers. We don't want anybody else on that trip because we want to trust whatever comes back. Why not us be the ones? We trust us.
Do flat earthers refer to it as down? Because it should be out, right?
Should be out, yeah.
Okay, but flat earthers say down?
A lot of them would say down. Some say out. But I mean, you can slip up, but that's a big cardinal sin. If you ever say that, a global or the planet, oh boy, you have 3 weeks of answering to do.
Wait, planet means round? Planet means globe?
Yes.
Okay.
Can't say planet if it's flat.
All right.
Yeah,
So wait, what do we call it? We just call it Earth. It is a what?
The plane of
It's a
existence, plane of inertia, words like that just mean nothing. But
interesting, because there are no other planets.
no, those are lights in the sky. That's what Dave Weiss will tell you.
Yeah, right. Okay. Wow, fascinating.
And if you zoom into them, they are energetic twinkles, and so they're sentient beings. And Dave Weiss told me one time that clouds have souls, and that clouds are sentient. So whatever, you can just say whatever. And then if you kind of challenge back on him, he'd say, "Can't rule it out. Can't rule it out." I guess you can't. Whatever, But you could get away with saying anything like that, right? Can't rule it out. Can't rule it out. So anyway, and the sad thing about Dave Weiss is that we were friends for 10 years, at least 9.5, whatever.
Can you talk about that friendship?
Yeah, I mean, it was talking on the phone once a week for 20 minutes, half hour. What's going on? Do you have shows this week? I got this going on. I have this guy I'm talking to. What do you think about this proof? What do you think about? So I knew that Dave was not lying, right? Dave believes it. He believed flat Earth. He fully believes it.
Does he today?
I would say he has doubts, but he has that block.
I think so. I think he believes it.
Yeah, I think that he believes it, but I think that there's enough now that should definitely get him to question. But again, I can say that, but if I put myself in that position, I'm not sure I would say there's enough. So, but let me tell you why I think it is. And this is what I was getting to. When I said back at the beginning, we knew the difference the South made. Okay, we knew why. So let me give you an example of how flat earthers confuse evidence. So when we went looking for videos of the 24-hour sun, okay, there was 20 in the north, and we had a hard time finding any in the south. Maybe we found one that we thought was doctored. So you're like, there's 20 videos in the north, and there's one. Okay, well, number one, do you know how many percentage of the world lives in the north? It's like 90%. Yeah, 90%. Right. Okay, so that right away, the ratio of videos north to south should be 10-1 or 9-1, right? That's to start. Second thing is, in the north, there's Alaska, there's Iceland, there's Norway, there's places that people live that have a 24-hour sun. You can go there, cheap. So add that to the fact that in the south, there is nowhere that you can live that has a 24-hour sun. There's nowhere that you can go easily. You can't even go on a cruise ship and watch it because you're not inside that Antarctic circle. So right away, you're like, well, the ratio should be 20-1. It should be 30-1, 40-1. But as a flat earther, you don't see this. You're like, how come there's not equal amount of videos? There should be equal. If we have one in the north, we have one in the south. Why don't they show it? So when you would find these ones that are in the south, you would pick them apart, like you would watch them over, and then we'd find that the clouds remain the same when the sun came back around. You're like, oh, it's looped. Now, just because something's looped doesn't make it fake. It means that they put the end of the video at the beginning of the video to make it a loop. So, but as a flat earther, you don't see that. You're like, this is fake. I dismiss it completely. So then you're like, the one video in the south is now dismissed. Now the ratio is 20-0. So you're very easily to build up this idea of why in the world would this be the case? And so you're like, well, then I don't believe in the 24-hour sun in the South anymore. Okay. Until I get proven that, I'm not going to believe it. So you push that aside. Now everything goes through this filter of the South is a lie. Everything. So it doesn't matter if anything is anomalous or analogous to our idea. It's, well, the South is a lie. Oh, well, this and that. And then you go looking for things like that. So I would find boat races that happen, and I would try and figure out the speed record for the North and the South. And guess what? I would figure out that the North speed record was faster than the South. Oh, well, that's because the South is wider and it takes longer to. So you just are able to, if you want to find something on the internet, you can find it. If you want to believe something, you can believe it. You can find enough evidence, and then, go back to, say, 1950. If you were a flat earther and you came out in your city and you're like, I think the Earth's flat, people would tell you, idiot, shut up, go home. No, I think that, no, you're an idiot. So it would be very hard to build anything because you're going to get shut down before you can. Fast forward to the internet age, whereas I can post a video and say, I think the Earth's flat, and then those comments come. So I somehow found those 15 other people in the country that were like, hey, you're onto something. Okay, great. Well, then you keep going. And as that number grows, you're just getting more and more people, even though it's inconsequential in a whole picture of 350 million people in a country. You think, I'm getting hundreds of views. I'm getting thousands of views. I got 10,000 views. So you can really start to build yourself up as you are some savior to humanity. And people will tell you things like this. People will come to you and say, your name will go down in history, Jeran. You will be in history books for what you've done for this world, for what you've saved us from, and my children from, and my grandchildren from. And you have, good luck not buying into that.
That's powerful.
Yeah, it's very powerful. It's the same thing, I'm sure, when pastors hear it from parishioners and, I prayed to God and he came to me and told me you're the greatest pastor ever. And sure, all that stuff happens and they probably buy into it. And what I think that happened to me that I didn't realize, let's go back to the relationship with Dave Weiss. So throughout the time, Dave was always great to me. He would do nice things to me. I remember I like to drink distilled water now. And he bought me this water distiller because he called me and said, you got to distill your water. You're going to get, there's contaminants in there and you could test. And I was like, it's like $300 on Amazon. I don't have that kind of money. 5 days later, one shows up at the door. And it was like things like that where you're like, oh man, he does care, So he was a friend like that. And we would see each other when we would go to conferences, obviously. Then he became a co-host on one of my shows on the Monday Night Raw show. So we were friends. I would say that we were friends. Now, getting close to when Antarctica happened, he was telling me, don't you dare go on that trip. And I'm like, well, why not? I'm like, they're not going to kill me if I'm going with somebody else. I'm not worried about that. The trip's going to be canceled, or if they fake it, we'll know. It's, you can't fake that. And I don't know, this and that. Okay, well, then he started sending me things for the trip. Here's a magnifying glass. Send me in the mail. Make sure that you try and burn paper with both suns at night and at day, because make sure it's not a different sun. Make sure it's not like, oh, during the day I can burn this paper, and the night, or I say night, it's not dark. I mean night hours. And it's like, so he gave me things like that. He was giving me advice, telling me not to go on the trip, whatever. So I ultimately said, well, do you trust Austin and I? Yeah, I think you're the guys, the best ones to go. Okay, well, just trust yourself on that. Don't, So I could tell though where he was starting to have doubts about even me because of how I was ready to go on this trip. Now, what I kept telling him is like, Dave, I want to know. I said, if there's a 24-hour sun in the South, I need to know that. And I said, and I will make my decision for that. Well, what are you saying? That the Earth wouldn't be flat if there's a 24-hour sun? I said, it's not explained. It cannot be explained and will never be explained. And this happened for 6 months before the trip. One thing that happened to me was when I said I was going on the trip, of course, all the hate started coming out. Oh, you're working with them, this and that. And people started saying, it doesn't matter what the sun does down there. I'm like, what? So then I would have to show on my screen and show on my show over and over again. Here's the flat Earth map. Here's what they say the sun does, which is go around you backwards in just that little area. Yet it has to go around the world and hit Australia and come back around in 24 hours. So how could it do a little circle above my head here and still light Australia? So I real quickly realized that was like and I almost think I got to a point in my flat Earth belief where I thought that there was nothing that would ever prove it. So I think I almost felt that like, okay, this is something I'm just going to do for life because you can't really prove it one way or the other. They're never going to be able to definitively show. That's kind of but then when, thinking about the 24-hour sun, I'm looking at it and then I was like, then it started to hit me all the things that I could discover in the South. Wait a second. So if I go down there and I'm looking at the South Celestial Pole, well, what's below it? I believe in the North Celestial Pole, Polaris, I've seen it, and I believe there's a North Pole underneath it. So if I go and see a South Celestial Pole, then I have to believe there's a South Pole underneath it. Then you start thinking about the sun moving backwards. Well, the sun goes one direction on a flat Earth. Doesn't ever change. We've never seen it change direction and go somewhere else. So if it goes the other direction in the south, that's a problem. So I started to piece all these things together, and I said,
Can I
Yeah.
expand on that? Because
Sure.
that one has eluded me for a while. So,
Yes.
like, if you and I are in a room with a
Okay.
dome, there's a clock on the ceiling.
Yep.
And no matter where we are in the room, we look up and we see the clock, and it is going clockwise. There's
Okay.
no angle from which you will look up at the clock and not see it going clockwise, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Now,
so then, what's
what
that?
what they would tell you is, as far as like things being okay, go ahead. Let me, in case you're talking about something different, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm probably not. So that's my understanding of the.
Yeah,
like-
here's where they'll get you though, is that if you were standing on one side of the room and I was on the other side, and we're both looking up at the clock, to you would say the clock's moving left to right. To me, I would say the clock's moving right to left. Even
which
though
is
it's
why I
still-
would say clockwise instead of right to left.
Okay, good. That's
right.
Yes, but what Flat Earth is very good at is when you bring something up like that, they'll just flip it to the one that they know the answer to, which is
Right.
no matter what you say is happening on the earth, they'll just say, yeah, but if I look north and you look south, you'll see the sun going this way and I'll see it going the other way. Correct. However, that's not what we're talking about. So like my biggest proof, my number one, if anybody ever had a question of the shape of the earth, I think you can figure it out yourself today, without any help, without any government, without any education, without NASA. And that is the sun tells you the shape of the earth, because in the north, we see the sun every day set left to right diagonally. Okay. No matter where you're at in the north, it sets left to right diagonally. If you turn around and watch it rise, it rises left to right diagonally. That's fact. Anybody can go do that right now. If it's almost sunset here, you would see the sun set left to right across the horizon. If you just cross the equator, everything changes. Now it sets right to left across the horizon and it rises right to left. Now, that is and should be a paradox. People should recognize that, because what you're saying is that, let's say me and you, let's put us back in that room. We're in a room and we're both looking at the same wall. Okay. If I took a laser pointer and I moved it around that wall, is there ever a period of time where we would see it go in different directions?
No, we can't
No.
describe it as different directions if we're looking.
Because we're looking at the same damn wall. If it's the equivalent of one person. If two people are looking at the same wall, it's the equivalent of one person looking at the same wall. So can one person see something going in two different? No, you're going to see the light wherever it's going. So the problem becomes when we on the earth all look west. So let's say the sun's going to set right now. It means a bunch of people in California down to Baja. Let's say the South America is a little, whatever. A bunch of us could watch the same sunset, and we would all here in the north see it going left to right. But the people in the south see it go right to left. So that right away is a problem. On a flat earth, it becomes a paradox. How can two people looking the same direction see the same item go in two different directions? So that's ultimately, and people can figure that out. And then it's even worse when you're talking about sunrise, because on sunrise, people in the north see it coming from the left, and people in the south, which are way that way, see it coming from their south. So there's now the sun's coming from different areas. See, at least if you're saying the sun sets right to left for these people and left to right for these people, at least it's coming from the same direction, coming from there going right, coming from there going left. In the south, when it rises, it's coming from way the hell over there, or it's coming from way the hell over there. So once I saw this globe model and I understood it, and this is leading up to Antarctica, so this is before I went. I see the globe model, I see the symmetry, and then I start playing around with it. I'm like, wait a second, north and south are equal, meaning that they are mirrors of each other. So at 55 degrees north, the sun sets a certain direction. 6 months later, at 55 degrees south, it's the same exact angle, just the other direction. So I started putting all this together and trying to tell people, look, it does matter. And they would just say, it doesn't matter with the lights in the sky. And then they would all say, but you used to say that, Jeran. You used to say that you can't tell the shape of the ground by looking at lights in the sky. I said, yes, but so when I used to say that, it was because somebody would say, look up in the sky, the moon's a sphere and the earth and the sun's a sphere. And I would say, you can't tell the shape of the ground by looking at the lights in the sky. Now, I still believe that just because it's like a pool table, just because all the pool balls are cylinder or spheres, doesn't mean that the pool table is a sphere. So it doesn't matter what the sky's got to say about the ground. However, the sun is a measuring stick, okay, because it does the same thing every day. So it means just like I can have a ruler here and you can have a ruler there, and we can go and measure things, and we have a pretty good idea that because we're using a measuring stick, that measuring stick is the basis, and we base everything off that. Same thing is true of the sun. The sun does a circle in 24 hours. It starts at one place and comes back in 24 hours. Knowing that, from that, you can then determine things. And you can make decisions about things like if the sun does this over here, but that makes it impossible to do this, then therefore it's not true. And what it comes down to is, I said, if we go to Antarctica and I see the sun to my south, over, good night. And then people would say, well, maybe the directions are wrong. They switched the direction. I said, no, you're not listening. In Antarctica, the sun's going to do a 360. So it doesn't matter if they switched all the directions in the world. It doesn't matter how confused I am. Doesn't matter if I think north is south and east is south and west is east. Doesn't matter. The sun's going to do a circle. And if it does a circle around my head, then at one point in time, it was south. And if it's south of me in Antarctica, guess what time it is for Australia? It's noon. So noon, Australia is 30,000 miles behind me in the flat earth. Or on a globe earth, it's around the other side of the ball. So I realized if it's noon for them and I see the sun at my south, good night. End of story. And I think once I settled on that opinion, I became very nervous about the trip. I became very nervous because I knew it could change my belief. And then I would have to come back and I would have to tell people I was wrong and that everything that would come from that. And I started to get worried about it. My wife got worried about it. And I said, you know what? I said, if you do what's right, then everything will work out. Not the truth.
Thank you. I'm glad you added that part in.
It
Yes.
is not the truth at all.
Right. Well, and I feel again like, and I can't help but like project my experience on to yours. But yeah, that is the false belief, and I think it's one that we say in these communities where we're like, we believe that we're like the lone truth seekers, and we believe that we are the lone truth seekers as long as, and that's true, as long as you only find the truth that is in that group, and
Right.
you always feel like, but what happened? Like we were the truth seekers. How come you're rejecting me for finding the truth? But that we don't realize that we're all lying and we didn't really know it. We weren't really truth seekers. We were consensus seekers.
Or we thought we had the truth, right? You see, we were seeking the truth and we thought we had it, and it lined up with our worldview, and it lined up with our belief about God, and it lined up. So really quickly you can, and then if you're only looking at those things, now a lot of people that watch us, I know this for a fact, don't do any research at all. So they literally are buying into people's personalities. They see MC Toon and he's being a jerk and he's calling people names. And then they see me and I'm being a nice guy and funny. And they're like, no, I believe this guy. He's a God believer and he's this and that. So you can quickly get people on your side for that reason. And then what happens is those people in their real lives make real life decisions that hurt them, whether it's arguing with their family so now their brother doesn't talk to them. They lost their girlfriend. They lost their wife. Whatever it might be. And then when you then go on the internet and say, I was wrong, they think, oh, you must be on the other side. Because otherwise what you're saying is that I did all this stuff, lost all my family because of something that you said and you were wrong. So people just, it's a mental condition. I mean, it is really, now for me, this is years before I went to Antarctica. I already saw the problems with talking to family and friends. And I would tell people, do not learn flat earth, learn it for yourself, understand it and all this stuff, and hope that you can kind of plant seeds, but never argue with family. So this is not worth losing family over, because what happens is, and I saw this, if you go to your family and say, I think the earth's flat, and they say, you're a moron, then you say, yeah, you're a retard for believing in the globe. Then they would say, you're a moron for flat earth. Now what you've done is you've twisted your feet in the sand. Neither one of you is going to move, because it would take you admitting, I was the retard. I was the moron and you were right. People don't like to do that. So I would tell people, you don't want to get in a position where you're now sticking your feet in it. And then people would even tell me, they'd be like, but I know the earth is flat. We know the earth's flat. So we can dig our feet in because
We have the truth. We're allowed to do this. Yeah. I can't think of a single time that phrase has ever gone wrong for humanity, where we treated people badly based on the truth that we knew.
Right. Never. So it was very scary to see. And then, so that, the Dave Weiss thing, and people still trip out on this. They don't believe me. I have not talked to Dave Weiss since I've been back from Antarctica. So what was a friendship turned into, I think if I looked at my messages, there would probably be some messages when I was in Antarctica, and he would just ask me questions, or did you check this? Did you check that? Did you check this? But ultimately, when we got back, the very first thing that started happening is I kind of shut down. I didn't want anything to do with what I saw people saying. We didn't go. It's all a lie. But then I started hearing people say, like, well, what do you say about Austin's vaping? And what do you say about him doing this? And what do you say about VapeGate? And what do you say about them saying you were at the Sphere in Las Vegas? Like, what is going on? I mean, this is so dumb. And really, but I don't know if these people did, but
Wait, hang on. So I need some more context here.
Sure.
So Austin is another popular flat earther, and
Yes.
When he came back, he was saying that you went to the Sphere?
No. He went to Antarctica with us, but people were saying that we were at the Sphere. People were saying that we faked
What
it.
was Austin saying?
He was saying that everything was what we saw. He wasn't saying that he thought it was changing his belief. But the problem with that is that people then started digging into the footage really deep. And one thing that happened during that trip was that people were asking us, why can't we see your breath? So this happened live when we were at the thing, and we're like, this is weird. I don't want you to see my breath. I don't know. So we would even ask people, how come we can't see our breath? And then they would, one of the guys would tell us, oh, it's because the air is really dry. There's no moisture. So they would tell us, and we kind of figured it out. But then I guess during one of Austin's live streams, people were saying, how come we don't see your breath? And he was like, I don't know. Sometimes you can see it, which is true. If you're in the shade or it's not really bright reflection, you can see it a little bit at least.
Why isn't your breath foggy? It's not as foggy as it was a second ago.
So anyway, I guess he said, hold on a second. I got to go inside and get some water. So he turned his live stream off or put like a video on. And then now here's the problem is that everything was being filmed there. We had 7 cameras filming 360 degrees.
And you had cameras filming the cameras.
Right. So you're not going to get away with anything. But Austin goes into the little, whatever they call that little dumpster that we're in. It's like a little building. So he goes in the little building and he comes out. Of course, he's on camera and he's walking and he grabs into his pocket and hits a vape. And he hits a vape 2 or 3 times, blows out the smoke, comes around the side of the laptop, flips on his laptop and says hi to everybody. Now, when he says hi, smoke comes out. And then he says,
there's a little breath.
And everyone, it's fine. Everything moves on, no problems. However, somebody then when we get back, takes the video, goes and looks and says, no, Austin faked his breath by smoking a vape. So then it became, we're on the trip. Why else would you fake your breath in Antarctica? You must have been somewhere and Austin wanted to show his breath. So anyway, and then Austin, it turns out that he's just trying to hide it from his wife. She doesn't let him vape. He goes in the building, hits the vape thinking nobody's looking, comes around the computer, breathes out and thinks, oh shit. And just the first thing he thought of was, I got to make sure I don't tell my wife I'm vaping. So I just, there's my breath. Thinking, of course, forgetting it, right. So it's just stupid things like that you're like, these are just human mistakes or whatever. But there was all these ones where they would say like, oh, we don't see your footprints in the snow. Therefore it was a set. And it's like, they're not smart enough to really, well, I don't want to say they're not smart enough. They didn't do any research about that. But even once you tell them after, they say, oh, that you're just making things up. So like, for instance, when I saw that, I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, wait, there is no snow there. Why do people think there's snow? And it's like, oh, no, guys, that's ice. That's not. So then you have to tell me, I said, guys, Antarctica has less precipitation than Death Valley. It has less snow and rain than the Sahara Desert. And they would be like, oh, that's a lie. You're full of shit. Who would ever say that? It's like, no, Antarctica doesn't get snow or rain. It's just ice. It's frozen and it keeps accumulating over time. So anyway, it's like that's what you saw on the ground is frozen ice. And so your foots don't make footprints there. Then they would show another video and say, look at Jeran's lying. Here, there's footprints. And it's like, that's chopped up ice. So if a big truck drives through and chops up all the ice, then what's left behind looks like snow. So it was very hard because you're trying to answer these questions, but whatever you would do would be used against you in some other way. This is ultimately why I started to say, oh shit, I think we went to the moon. Because I started realizing that all the arguments we have against the moon could just be the same thing, where you weren't there, you don't understand, you have no education in this at all, and you're just speaking out your ass, and that when they try and correct something that you've said, then you just blame it, it's part of the conspiracy. So that's when I talked to Dave McKeegan. I said, hey, how about you come on my show? We do a show where I'm going to provide all the evidence that the moon landing's fake, and you try and combat it so I can see. So over a 4-piece video, I got to the end of that video, or 4-video series, and I said, I will never argue that we didn't go to the moon again, because I no longer felt like the evidence was there. There wasn't true evidence, right? It's just if, for instance, people can say, if you ask somebody who's a flat earther, hey, do you believe in Antarctica? They would say, no, I don't believe those guys went. And if you ask them why, they would say, that's too much, vape gate, this. That's not evidence. When you're just saying, oh, no, the guys, they got caught in this lie, and somebody said this, and somebody said that, and the other guy said this, and what they would do is, imagine you've got 9 of us that went on this trip, right? 4 flat earthers, 4 globe earthers, and Duffy. And then you've got us all in different interviews, separate. And you're taking things that we've said, and then you're saying, this guy said this, but this guy said this over here. It's like, no, you're not understanding. Like that's, again, it's just confusion. And then they would like bring up, here's, when I got there to Antarctica, the very first thing I say in my first video is, I guess we're going to another camp because the sun is going to go behind this mountain. Okay, that's what we were told. That's why we're told we're going to the mountain. Come to find out, the sun did not go behind that mountain. From the location where we were, we didn't necessarily need to go to the other one. It was close, but it didn't. So people are all saying, because now they're like, well, the sun never went behind that mountain. It's like, yeah, but it's because they said it. Well, you said it did. You said it was going to. Yeah, that's what we were told. It's not evidence that we didn't go to Antarctica. The guys there said we're sending you to this other camp so that it doesn't go behind the mountain. Anyway, little things like that they don't get. They would say crazy things like, it's always cloudy down there. And the one day they went, it just happened to be perfect weather, which is kind of true, but kind of not. It's not always bad weather there. It's cloudy most of the time, I would say. But during that height of the summer is when you would get a clear sky. And it happens occasionally. And yes, they're right. We happened to get there and it was clear sky as could be. And I remember even telling Duffy, this will be out in the documentary, where Duffy says, I want to go to that camp right now. Let's go. Let's start filming. And I said, well, why rush? Let's stay here for now and try. I didn't want to go. And then good thing we did, because we went there, we filmed the 24-hour sun, and then immediately, basically, the weather got bad. And then we didn't have clear skies again. So there really was legitimately maybe 48 hours of clear sky the entire time we were there. And we happened to be right in the window where we were able to get there, and there's still clouds in the sky. It's not like it was crystal clear blue and nothing else. But anyway, so then I get back from the trip and Dave Weiss just blocks me and blocks. And then I started hearing people tell me like, oh, so I want to tell you this is how bad Dave Weiss is, right? Why I think he's a bad person is because before we left, and this is probably a month or two before, there started to be talk about his app leaking data. Okay. MC Toon called me and said, hey, did you know your buddy's app is leaking people's data? We can figure out things about them. I'm like, I don't believe that. I don't think, nope, it's true. And then he would say like, I have your home address. Be like, no, you don't. Well, then he showed me a picture of my house. I'm like, okay, what the hell's going on? So he's like, yeah, we have your password. I'm like, you couldn't have my password. Give me my password. I'm like, all right. I said, well, let me see. I went in there and changed my password on the app. I said, what's my password now? They gave it to me. So I said, okay, these guys have access to people's information and they want Dave to fix it. So I went to Dave and Dave's like, no, it's a spiritual attack. Don't worry about it. I'm like, Dave, they have my home address now, dude. They have my password when I changed it. He's like, oh yeah, tell them to tell me my password. I'm like, okay. So I go back and, hey, can you give me Dave Weiss's password? Sure. They get it. I give it to him and he's like, oh, well, tell him to give me my address. I'm like, okay. So I go back, tell him. They send me a picture of his house. I send it to him. He's like, oh. So he's like, all right, I'm going to get somebody on it. I'm going to get my A team to fix it. My bad, whatever. So then he comes back and says, okay, it's fixed. Okay. Then he puts out a video like telling people, hey, the thing's been fixed. Go ahead and download the app again. Put in your crypto address so you can get, it was something like just weird. And it was like, okay. I went back to MC Toon and said, he says he fixed it. And he's like, okay, we're going to check. Comes back and says, he didn't fix anything. Somebody went in and like added letters to the end of everybody's password. That was one thing that was done. And the other thing is that somebody went in and changed. Oh yeah. So the URL might have been something / profile, but now it was something / poor file. So they changed the wording thinking that was, so really what this was an app with zero security. It was just whoever developed it for Dave did things that he thought would be secure, but they're not secure because somebody can do a certain code and they can get all of the web addresses. So the dash profile. So they just did the code and then it returned and said dash profile. And they're like, oh, now I know it's profile. It's not profile. So they typed that in and it would return everybody's information. So I told Dave, you're screwing up. He's like, no, I spent $20,000 on it, this and that. I'm like, dude, if you did, you got scammed. And I said, you need to fix this right away. He's like, well, I'm not talking about this anymore. I think you just are, you're just believing in what these guys who are attacking my app are saying. Like, yeah, because they have people's data. So Dave, people now have my address. I need to move. I said, that's okay. And he's like, if you move, that's on you. And I'm like, yeah, I guess it is on me. But I said, to feel safe, I need to move. And I said, you know what? And I was just kind of talking out of flipping it. I said, you know what? If I do move, maybe I'll get a house with a pool and it will be an upgrade. Maybe it is meant to be. He's like, yeah, exactly. So anyway, so I go to Antarctica. I get back and I start having people tell me, they're like, oh yeah, Dave is telling people that you took a payout. I'm like, what? And he's like, in fact, they said, pay attention. Pretty soon you're going to move and you'll probably have a house with a pool. I'm like, unbelievable. So like what Dave effectively did is made it so I couldn't move. Because if I would have, and people would have seen a new house, they would say, well, you got a new house now? How did you get that? And if I tried to say I rented, they would say, prove it. Well, how would I prove that without giving you my address? Which is then I'm back to you having my address, which is what I already have. So he's done these little things where he's told people that I've taken a payout, that I'm compromised, that I'm a clone, that I am a demon, right? That I'm the Antichrist. He's actually said that I'm the Antichrist. So, and then he's now pretending like he's spiritual when he's never been spiritual. He's just realized that's got to be part of the grift now, is that the majority of believers are going to be Christians. And this is because once you've married flat earth with your Bible, so let's say you're a Christian, your whole life, the Bible's true, the Bible's true, the Bible's true, but the earth's a globe. Then flat earth comes into play and somebody says that flat earth is true because it's in the Bible. I go, what? No, it's not. They flip through, they see the different passages that tend to, and for me, it's easy. The people who wrote the Bible thought the earth was flat. And the people that wrote the Bible think the earth doesn't move. So it's stationary. It never moves. It'll never be taken off its foundations. So once you see that, and then somebody tells you that means the earth is flat, once you've adopted that and said, the Bible does say that, therefore I am a flat earther, now you'll never get rid of it. You can't. If you realize that the earth isn't flat, then you have to realize the Bible isn't true. So nobody's going to do that. So they were able to just basically stay in that belief. And then again, just like anything coming from outside the Bible is from Satan, guess what? Now I'm coming from outside the Bible. If I'm saying the earth isn't flat, so guess who I'm working on behalf? So it's a downhill slope from there. And these people have become wicked. So they are terrible people, where they may have been good people before, I don't know. But they're using this idea of they're on God's side to be okay with making fun of people, doxing people, doing revenge porn, you name it. Whatever they do, it's because you are satanic and they are godly. They're doing work for God. You are doing work for, what are you on behalf of the government? Are you saying things that mainstream us tell, so it's this us versus them mentality. It's the we've been lied to and therefore we're truthers, and that anything that you say that doesn't meet our worldview must be a lie. You're a liar. And we are the truthers because we only talk about the truth. And I just saw Will Duffy did an interview yesterday or the day before with this girl, Melissa, and he's talking and he brings up his friend, Wendy B. Level was her name before. I think she changed her last name on Facebook from B. Level. But she was somebody who was a friend of mine. Well, she kind of became a friend right before Antarctica. And she became really close to me. And she's like, hey, can you do these things for me when you're in Antarctica? I'm going to give you a PDF with a bunch of, she gave me this PDF of 30 things to do in it. Answer these questions, look into this. And so I'm like, okay, I want these, so I did it for her. And so when I got back, I gave her the PDF. So here's all your answers. Anyway, we were kind of close until about a month after, when she's like, so you're standing behind the fact that you guys went and this was a real trip? Yes. Just, completely disconnected. Now she was Will's good friend. And he just said in that podcast the other day that now she believes that the recent hockey Olympic game was fixed, that it was scripted. So he was just pointing out that this is the end of conspiracy. When you are a conspiracy theorist, the end result is everything's fake. You'll always end up there because, and I blame this on YouTube really, YouTube forces you into one camp or the other. And it's not just YouTube, it's your audience, it's the money making. For example, nobody wants to watch somebody who's in the middle. Nobody wants to tune in to somebody say, I don't know what shape the earth is. Let's look into it today. You will get no views. So where do you get views? You get views by saying flat earthers are idiots and the earth is a ball, or you get views by saying the earth is flat and globers are idiots. So, and that goes for every subject, atheist, Christian, you name it, whatever it is, they push you because your audience they're not going to watch people in the middle. And if you are in the middle, they're going to start pushing you in a certain direction. Now, where I do agree with people is let's look at Candace Owens. It is impossible for her to realize now that if she was wrong about the Charlie Kirk thing. If she's wrong, it's impossible for her to realize that, because if she said now on her show today, you know what, I'm wrong, everything was the way that the government said, she would lose her entire audience because her entire audience now is on board. They believe in it, that Erica Kirk is responsible for his death. And I'm not even saying that's not true. I'm saying that if she's wrong, it's impossible to ever get back from that. There's a guy, I don't know if you've ever seen him, his name's Baron Coleman. He's got a podcast. He makes $6,000 or $7,000 a stream on just super chats. But he's basically just piggybacking off everything Candace Owens says. He has pigeonholed himself now that he'll never be able to not believe that. So it just gave me a new opinion of everybody who believes something online. I no longer put any faith into them because I realize, if you said that from the start and you got anybody to believe you, you can never not say it. So the people who have a certain theory about JFK, the certain people who have a theory about 9/11, the certain people who have a theory about 5G, no matter what your belief is, if you've gone into it and gained any sort of audience because of it, you can no longer get out. And you can, but you'll become like me. You'll become completely removed from that society to the point where I can't post pictures of my family on Facebook or anywhere anymore. I tried doing it. I tried posting pictures of myself. People said I was a clone. Tried a picture of my son. People said he was demonic or something. So it's like, at this point, you've kind of, spent your, whatever you want to call it, you've blown your load in terms of the internet. And I get it. And they're going to make sure that you never are able to be on the internet again. They're going to make sure these people are so wicked that they feel like, again, they're under the impression that I must be working for the cabal or for Satan, or I took a payout, and so I'm just a liar now. And so I'm not just a liar, I'm a liar who's attacking their belief. And I'm a liar who knows the truth, but is still attacking, which is the worst kind of person there is, right? If a person knows that you're being honest, and they're going on and they're telling their lie and telling people you're lying, what an evil, wicked person that is. So it's very easy. And then you've got, again, like I said, Dave Weiss teaches people to block everybody. So all the flat earthers that you can think of, you might be thinking, how do they say that when MC Toon does this video? When Dave Farina, Professor Dave says this, how does the flat... It's because they don't even see it. They have no idea. And they never will see it because they've blocked those people. So once you've done that, what you're in an echo chamber that is multiple upon multiple. In the fact that these are now your family. These are now your friend. You've lost everybody else. You don't have a job. You don't connect with people in the outside world. You are in this cult, and it is a cult, because how do you know it's a cult? If you dare try and speak out about something in the cult, you get put down. And I noticed this when right away, this is like 3 months before the trip, somebody came out, this guy, I don't even know if he's still on YouTube. Where has he been? What's his name? Well, I can't think of his name right now. It'll come to me in a second. So he's got this school that he's teaching, a flat earth school or something. But anyway, he comes out and says that he looked into it and all flat maps predict the 24-hour sun. Okay. When I heard that, I'm like, what is going on? Like, no flat earth can't predict it or explain it. So I would go telling people this, and then you'd start hearing, that's what people started saying. That became the flat earth mantra. And so you just realize like, oh man, this is not a group of truth seekers. They're not at all. I mean, it's the complete opposite of that. And it is hard for me to come to grips with, would I have been just like them? So if somebody else went and came back, would I be the same way? Which is just saying that, no, we've always predicted the 24-hour sun. It doesn't make a difference. Lights in the sky don't tell us the shape of the ground. And my block would have still been there. And why does going on a trip make it so easy for that block to be removed? For me, I'll never be able to explain that. It was just, and does that mean that everybody needs to actually see it for themselves? I don't know. I don't think I understood the implications. It wasn't a matter of just like, oh, once I saw it, my eyes were open. It was more of a complete understanding of how the world works. And to really understand that, things from like 24-hour sun, sunset, sunrise times, all these things that the globe predicts perfectly, the flat earth cannot predict at all. And so at some point, when do you draw the line and be like, okay, because really what it comes down to is three main things that the flat earth has that are true, but they're also globe evidence, but you just forget that. Number one, water lies level, right? If I get a glass of water and I show you, is that level? You'd be like, yes. Look at my pool level.
Every time they say that, I feel lost. Like, I don't know what you're saying. Yes, we all agree.
Yeah, water's level. But that's a globe claim too, right? But the flat earth claims it as their own. They say like water doesn't curve and then they would show a picture, like if you picture a glass of water and then like a hump of water over top, like water doesn't do this in the glass. Well, yeah, because the center of the earth is not at the bottom of the glass. So, it's a lot lower down.
Well, it does in space. And that's this, like the part, I don't like, I feel like you guys probably shouldn't bring that up because all the fake footage from space shows that water does curve. Like it is attracted to itself and it makes a little ball of water. You don't have a.
Well, I don't think that they actually say that is, they say it's surface tension because again, yeah, the gravity isn't in the middle of that water.
Why is it a ball though? Like, why?
Yeah, that's equal potential, equal,
I don't have to convince you.
Yeah. And well, other things things just make sense now to whereas before they didn't make sense. Like, why is there no flights that go across the South Pole or go across Antarctica really? And you're like, if there's all the flights go across the North Pole, lots of them, you're going from New York to Germany, you're going from, wherever, San Francisco to Russia. But in the South, that doesn't happen. And really, if you just take the globe and look at it, it makes sense. You can't draw a dot and a dot to two locations in the Southern Hemisphere that make sense to go across the South Pole, except for one, and that's Perth to Buenos Aires. That flight would go right across the South Pole, and that flight doesn't exist. So again, if I'm a flat earther right now, by saying that, now I've got a video to make. Look at this. This flight proves the Earth is flat because, the reason for that is because there's different laws that you have to have a runway within so many miles of a plane so that if one of the engines goes out, they can coast to the rescue runway. And Antarctica doesn't have runways like that you could get to, so they don't fly planes across there. So and then they sometimes skirt it, it'll go around the edge of it or something. But what really is bad is that you couldn't do any of the flights that we do on a flat Earth. And the biggest question you can ask anybody who wants to know what's the number one way to get a flat earther is ask them where the South Pole is. They will wig out because they'll call you a Satanist. They'll tell you to go get more vaccines. They'll tell you that you need to get your booster shots, whatever they can do to get you off that idea. Because look at a flat earth map. Where is the South Pole? That it's literally in infinite places. It is everywhere on the outside. So once you realize, and again, I know this because I'll just explain one thing that happened to me in Antarctica. And I always like the things that come to me on my own. When somebody tells me something, okay, great, I learned that. But I was in Antarctica and I'm watching the sun and we're there and I see where it's at its lowest over there in the south. And it kind of hit me like, oh, you really can tell where the lowest part of it is because it goes low and then goes up high in the sky behind you. And I was like, so that's south. Okay, I get that. That's south. If I went, so I said, wait, so if I went towards the bottom of the sun, so the sun's, okay, right there's its lowest, and I walked that way, in 69 miles, it would pop up 1 degree. Okay, realize that. And it would lower 1 degree behind me. Okay, and if I went another 69 miles, it would pop up another degree, and that one would lower. Okay, well, how many times do I need to walk until it was even? Because it's 35 behind me, 15 in front of me. So I said, okay, so 10 degrees would then make it 25 and 25. And then it would be doing a circle around my head even. So then it hit me like, oh, let me figure out how far away we are from the pole. Well, it was exactly 69 times 10. We were 690 miles from the pole. And then it hit me like, well, what about somebody, oh, wait a second. So then I pictured the 80-degree latitude circle. We were at one place on that, looking south, like I said. But then you could picture anybody else on that circle would all see the exact same thing. It's just their southern sun would be in a different spot. But if we all started doing what I was doing, we would all end up at one place. That place is the South Pole. Now you look at history and you go back and look at Amundsen Scott and these guys that were on these polar trips to get to the South Pole. That's how they did it. Because there was no GPS. They know the compass doesn't work there. So they had to look at the lowest part of the sun, walk towards it, and they all ended up at the same place, which is the South Pole. So then you start realizing, oh, so that's the way it works in the North, right? Like if I'm in Russia and you're in the United States and somebody's in Alaska, if we all walk towards Polaris, we run into each other. We would hit each other at the North Pole. So then you're like, oh, the South is the opposite of the North. And this happened to me when I was down there and it kind of hit me like, oh, okay. And then everybody who said like, how would you know you're in the right location? They could take you to an island somewhere and tell you it's Antarctica. And you're like, no, they couldn't. Because the globe is so, I want to say perfect. The globe is so mapped that no matter where you go on the earth, the sky has to do what the sky has to do. So you'll know you're in the wrong spot if you get there and the sky is like doing something different. I'm not at 80 degrees. But when they took us, the sun was exactly doing what it was supposed to do at 80 degrees. And then you realize everybody at 80 degrees sees the same thing. And you're like, oh, it's end of story. So they would tell us, oh, we could fly you from South America to the South Pole. And I think it's like 7 hours. From South Africa to the South Pole in 7 hours. From Australia to the South Pole in 7 hours. Okay. So how does that work on a flat earth? Yeah. So everything just started to kind of unravel for me at once. And it was like, and everywhere I looked, and then I would go watch flat earth stuff and I would just realize it's all a misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding of size. So then when I got back, these are things that all happened after I got back, is I started to, I drew an earth on GeoGebra, which is a website you can go, it's free and it's geometrically. So I was able to like make a earth the exact size that the earth is in feet. And then I was looking, and then I learned all kinds of things that I was like, oh man, one of the things I learned is that we always tell people the earth drops at 8 inches per mile squared. Okay, which is correct. That's the approximate math. But really what that math is, if you shorten it from there, it comes down to for every 660 feet, okay, which is 1/8 of a mile, the earth curves 1/8 inch. Okay, so think about that. So that's 2 American football fields, end to end. So end zone to end zone and end zone to end zone. You have 2 football fields in length. That curves the height of a dime or a nickel laying down. I mean, once I saw that, I'm like, wait a second. So you shouldn't expect to see curve. The curve is so little on the earth that you would never see it. And then I realized, wait a second. So we don't even build houses. We don't care about the curvature of the earth. When we build roads, when we build even, at least this is my opinion, I know there's some people who disagree with this, and I'm a globe believer, is I don't think we use the curvature of the earth when we build bridges. I don't think you need it. I think that wherever you are, you build level. That's it. And I think, because whether I'm not an atheist today. Now, but my idea of God is certainly different than people's. But I do believe that like the earth is an amazing place to live. And part of it is because we can treat it like it's flat. And if we lived on like a ball that was a quarter of the size, I think that flying planes and things like that would be a little bit different. It just so happens that you can teach a plane to fly a certain height above the ground. And if the ground is gradually changing 1/8 inch for every 660 feet, that the plane is not going to even know. The plane's just staying the same height away from the ground. Gradually. So the idea of like planes need to nose down went away. I'm like, no, they don't. They don't need to nose down. They are staying the same height away from the ground. That's it. And so all these things started to bubble up to where anything that I ever believed in the past. Oh, I wanted to go over the 3 real quick. Just the 3 things. I said water lies level. They say we don't see curve. Another one, we don't measure curve. We don't see it. And then the other one is we're not spinning. Okay. So you can look at those things, and then the globe just has an answer for them. You just refused it. And the globe says, yeah, the earth, the water lies flat because the water's level. It's level with the shape of the earth, meaning that water is being pulled from every direction to the center of the earth. So people think of that and they think that we should see a curved hump in the ocean. And it's like, we do. Zoom out from the planet. See that line? That's curved. But it's like, but if you zoomed in, so you super zoom into the side of the earth, you're going to get so close where that curve becomes flat and it's level. And people just can't grasp that because they say, well, I should see a bigger. No. And it's like, here's one of the reasons I think that's the case. Think of a sphere right now. Every sphere you've ever thought of in your life is small. Okay. Even if you start thinking of like, oh, I'm looking at this planet program to where I can see Mars and Jupiter, they're on the screen. They're small. We don't know any. So I don't think it's even possible to fathom the size of the earth. So the idea that there's a sphere that has no curve doesn't make sense to us. It's just our brains can't do it. But I think once you allow yourself to say, because people have said like, oh, well, if you put an ant on a beach ball, the beach ball is still curved. Yeah, if you think that it's comparable to put an ant on a beach ball, you don't understand the earth. You're not even in the realm of the same thing. It's so far different than that. And so then, then it hit me like I used to tell people all the time, like I told you earlier, we're spinning 1,000 miles per hour. That's crazy. Yeah, but it's not crazy if you're thinking planetary. Think me and you get in a spaceship right now and we go up in space and we turn around and look at the earth. We wouldn't see it moving. It's spinning 1,000 miles per hour, but it goes around once in a day. So look at a clock and watch the hour hand and tell me if you'd be able to see it moving if it's moving half as fast. The hour hand isn't moving. So the earth isn't moving. So it's this. So it's like the way we think, the way we were very human centric, like we think everything's about humans and it's just not the case. Now, I don't know if that means that it's evolution and that we're unimportant. I don't know any of that. That's for each person to come up with their own understanding of that. I have my own. I think it's different than everybody else's. But like, I think that we are all collective of kind of like a collection of God in a way, that we all have that divine kind of spark in us, but there is no external God. There's no God over there anywhere. And I believe all religions try and do that. They try and point you away from yourself, where God is within you, your morality is within you, everything's within you. And you could, you try and make amends for the wrongs that you've done in your life and, see what happens at the end. If it's lights out, then it's lights out. For me, I think there might be something else. Hope there's something else. And that I think it's better to get there and be a good person than it is to get there and be a liar and a scumbag. So, but anyway, just saying that I think that the idea that humans are so important and everything's about us creates a problem, because then you start thinking too, people will always say on the flat earth, we'd be able to feel the speed going around the sun at 66,000 miles per hour. It's like, well, no, we don't feel speed, right? And again, just like I told you about the big curvature of water on the globe, but if you zoom in really, really close, that it's flat. Well, the same thing is true about our orbit around the sun, that if you zoom out and look at the orbit around the sun, like it's a big circle. Okay, now zoom in and look at how far we travel in a day, and you zoom, and you notice that line is straight. We're just traveling straight.
That's another one where, like, I feel like when they bring that to me, I feel like it goes against them, because, like, if you blindfold me and put me in a car and speed me up to 100 miles an hour, I can't tell the difference between going 200 miles an hour and going 50 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour in a car, or put me in a plane, like 300 miles an hour feels the same as 10 miles an hour. It feels smooth. It feels like I'm not moving as much, because at 10 miles an hour, I'm actually feeling the bumps. So like, I always felt like they would bring me something and I'd be like, it feels like, I feel like the opposite of what you're trying to convince me of. But,
and even like the car example that you gave, you're on the road. So you're actually moving with the wheels touching the road. So you can actually fathom, oh, I could feel that we're moving faster, but it's because you're connected. And also you're in the atmosphere. So when the plane's flying, you're flying through air. When the planet is flying, it's not flying through anything. There's no air. So there's no resistance. It's just going. So it's like things like that where, it's just a misunderstanding of scale. But when you try to explain this to somebody, again, with it comes the fact that they could be wrong about everything they've done the last 10 years, every person that they've talked to, every family member that they've shunned, every job that they've lost. And that's too much for people. And I get that. And I guess for me, as a content producer who just produced content, I knew that I owed it to my audience to tell them I was wrong, give the reasons I was wrong. And I spent a year doing it, thinking something would come of it, that somebody would hire me to host a show. Somebody would see that I had integrity and would be like, oh, let's use them for this. So I kind of felt like, okay, this is going to be my best course of action. Yeah, I'm going to get a bunch of hate for it. But in the end, I'll come out better than I was. And that's not the case. In fact, I mean, I don't even want to talk about it really, but something I just realized in the last couple of days, it's like crazy to me, is that when I got, so this is about maybe May or June last year. This guy reached out to me and says, "Hey, great job on the TFE. Thanks for being honest, this and that. Hey, I think you should write a book." And I'm like, "I don't know, this." He's like, "No, you could do it. The best way would be this, and this." He gives me some ideas. Over the course of like 3 months, he's like talking to me every once in a while, convinces me to write a book, and says he knows a girl in the UK that's a ghostwriter that will write my first chapter for free. And then she'll shop it around to people that she knows, and we'll get an advance, and then I can hire her to be the ghostwriter for the whole book, or I can hire an editor, but all these things. So I'm like, okay. So I'm like, let me meet this girl. So he sets up a meeting with her. She comes on Zoom. Great girl, nice girl. She's young, British. I don't know. She just is okay. Here's what I want to do. Here's the chapters, the idea. She understood my story. She understood everything about it. So she's like, okay, but I'm going to need a lot of time with you telling your story. And she goes, it's not just about the trip. I want the trip to be a major part of it, but also we have to go through basically the stuff I told you in this interview, your past, how you got into flat earth, this and that. So we spent 25 hours together, and that's not fun. For 4 hours, I would get on and I would just talk to her. And then she would ask questions. She would be taking notes. She would say, wait, I don't understand. With this, you this, and this. Yeah. So we do 25 hours of that. Come last like December, this past December, she's like, I'm almost done with the first chapter, and then we're going to start shopping it. Okay, great. She's like, didn't you have a forward? You're going to have a forward? I'm like, oh, I got to go. So I told Duffy, I need you to write the forward, because I guess she's included with the chapter that we're shopping. Okay, great. So he writes the forward. So I give it to her. So anyway, come January, I'm like, hey, what's going on with the thing? And she's like, oh yeah, I'm almost there. I'm almost done. We're close. I just have these last 40 questions for you. It's like a sheet of 40 questions that all seem to do with like things that I either left out of the story or things she didn't quite understand. It took me a couple hours. I finished that up. Sent her the final copy. The guy that had got me in contact with her and her disappeared. They're gone. They don't answer Telegram anymore. Completely gone. We had a contract we signed. Completely gone. I mean, as far as like they're gone. I can't get a hold of them. How do I get a hold of them? I've been trying to find this guy's name. I think he gave me a fake name now. He gave me a link to LinkedIn, and I'm so stupid that I think at some point because he said, hey, if you want to know who I am, here's my LinkedIn link. When I click on that link, it goes to a dead page. So I think I was scammed. Now I didn't pay any money, so I didn't lose any money, but I lost my entire story. I lost all that time. I don't even know what their plan is with it. So little things like that have made me realize like, I don't even want to be on the internet anymore. Because I've now been a target for people that want to, whatever that people are going to do with my story. I don't even know what they would do with that. I don't know if I don't know. How would I know? So, but I mean, they had to hire this girl, I guess, because she's like, maybe she was just out of college. So 23, 24. And she sat there with me for hours and listened to my story and wrote things down and took notes and would write back like questions that had to do with the thing. So part of me still hopes there's maybe a chance that that's not what happened. But it's funny because if you go into Telegram, it tells you the person was when they were last on. And both of them, one of them is 123, 2026, and that one's 117, 2026. So at about the same time, they both have not been on Telegram since. So now I'm thinking, oh, it's the same person. Whether that's, well, no, it'd have to be, it would be the girl. Yeah, so I don't think she was the one scamming the whole time. Anyway, it's constant like that. It's constant people now trying to attack me. There's been people who have shared revenge porn. There's people who have shared private images, private videos, private DMs, anything they can, because I'm no longer a human being. So we don't treat people like human beings. We treat people like their enemies, even though nobody gets mad at that person or says, hey, aren't those private DMs between you two? Between two people. So why would you feel okay putting that out there? It's not like I committed any crime. There's nothing that's ever been shown to commit a crime. So it's like, that's what's so weird about it, is that these people are actually committing crimes. And it's okay. In a flat earther's mind, you could literally, and so this has become scary because flat earth has become exactly what they hated. So when we got into this, it was because, oh, the Globers are just saying anything. They're just, they'll make fun of you. They use ad hominem attacks. They have no morals. And then now the flat earth is that way. They are so sure of themselves that whatever, they don't care about lying to get to the truth. In fact, now I realize looking back and even recently that they lie about everything. Like they will make fake evidence to put out to people. Like, why would you ever do that? I mean,
because your goal is noble enough.
Right. Exactly. That's scary because that's what we used to say about the Globers is we would say like, oh, they're okay with lying because they feel strongly enough about their belief that they're okay with it. That's the flat earthers now. So like, I remember when the Katy Perry went to space thing, this is kind of, I forgot what year, I know it was 2025, but it was probably March, April, somewhere in there. Whenever it happened, I saw all the flat earthers saying it was fake. And it was hilarious to me because I'm like, okay, see, this is the problem now, is that because of your belief, you think something so, like, that is literally a carnival ride. They throw you up really high and then they let you float down and you get to experience some zero G. It has nothing to do with space, it has nothing to do with orbit, it has nothing to do with anything, but they're like, it's fake. It's like, no, it's not. They've sent hundreds of people up in that. People go and watch and the thing lands and people get out. It's not fake. It's not. And it's like, they don't even listen. They will laugh at me. I mean, if you go look at posts on Facebook, they laugh. And Jeran thinks Katy Perry went to space because they're so sure that it can't possibly exist. So now they're not even in the realm of like reality. They just are anything. And then Charlie Kirk, it was a hologram in the middle of the day, a hologram shooting. So it's whatever. Now the end result of being a truther is that nothing is real. So you get to that point and your life's going to be different and you are going to have a hard time existing. And if you teach your children that, I feel like that's child abuse. I really think that if you're raising your children to believe the earth is flat, you are damaging them in the future. Whether you realize it or not, they're going to have a tougher time at some point in the future because of what you taught them. And it may be something that you have a hard time ever reeling back in. Because again, now you have to admit that you were wrong to your kids. Who wants to do that? Oh, I was wrong. You were right. So anyway, it's just very scary. And so to get to Dave Weiss, he is going around telling people I'm a demon, telling people that I'm not real or I'm a clone, and it's just because of his inability to accept what I'm telling him is the truth. Because if I'm telling the truth, his map is wrong, his app is wrong, everything he's been saying in every interview is wrong, everything he's teaching children and telling people to teach children is wrong, and he can't face that. And he says the most ridiculous things. One of the things he says recently, I heard him say, he says, "Oh, and gravity is so strong it can hold Pluto, but it doesn't do anything to the moon." Does Dave Weiss not know that the moon is in orbit of the damn sun? It's still in orbit of the sun. So it's like little things like that. And I hear people they all buy into it. And then I read all his comments and it's all, Dave, you're a genius. And I'm like, okay, so he's just in the same boat that I was. But I didn't block the opposition. So I never blocked Professor Dave. I didn't block MC Toon. I didn't block Simon Dan because I felt like I wanted to learn, or at least watch them, see what they're doing. Then, but what Dave does is just, they must be lying. So I'm blocking them. So there's just nobody left that Dave has to worry about because in his YouTube world, there's nobody. So when I come back and then I was like the only one. To him, I'm the only one. That's why you asked him, is there anybody? Oh, there's just one. We don't name him because he didn't do it organically.
Tell me this. Have you ever, you know a lot of people who have come into the Flat Earth community. Do you know anyone who has left the Flat Earth community?
Not organically. Yeah, not organically. Just we got this one guy that went to Antarctica on the trip that they tried to rope me into. This was a total deception. This is like a deception like the moon landing. And they're like, the circling sun in Antarctica is going to prove that the earth is a globe, which is all, there's so many things wrong with it. We don't want to get into all the details of that. But while he was there, he immediately flipped and he said, the earth is a globe. And it is so creepy what's going on with him. His podcast, he never see his eyes. It's always in the dark. He doesn't look the same. I'm not even sure it's the same person, but everything that he put out tons of content before that's undeniable stuff. It's still out there, but now he's just saying the opposite. And he did say, like if you go on this, how do we know you're not going to be compromised? How do you know you're not going to be threatened? How do you know that something didn't happen to you? And he goes, if I come back and say that all these anti-flat earth guys are great guys and start doing podcasts with them, and I say the moon landing's real, you can know that I've been compromised. That's exactly what he's doing. He's doing podcasts with all of these anti-flat earthers. He says the moon landing is real. Katy Perry went to space. Nobody pays any attention to him. It's nonsense. So that's the only one.
And I'm learning very slowly. I'm getting the sense that he's kind of the one who shall not be named in the Flat Earth community. Is that fair?
I don't like saying his name because I don't deal with demons.
He did it, whatever he makes up. I mean, it's as organic as it'll ever be. In the fact that, and I've told people, I've never spoken to anyone, not from the government, not from some organization. I've never been offered any money or any gifts for anything that I did, or anything that I said. In fact, it wrecked my career, wrecked my YouTube career. I could very easily right now be still making $4,000 or $5,000 a month, telling people the earth is flat and using the same excuses these guys are using to dismiss Antarctica. Could easily be doing that. And so that scares me because once I see that, then I realize a majority of people out there are probably like that. Like, let's say you're a pastor and you realize, oh, you're wrong. You're wrong about the church. You're wrong about the Bible. Well, that person's they would rather stay in the church and keep preaching it than, because they realize if I tell my audience, oh, I'm wrong. Well, it's not like there's an atheist audience out there waiting for you to become their leader. They don't, just like for me, it's not like, oh, now that I know the flat earth is wrong, all these globe earthers are going to be like, I want to listen to Jeran. No, they're like, it's about time, dipshit. It's about time you realize it. But they don't want to listen to me. They don't want to learn from me. That's the last thing they want. So it's just what you've done is you've really, and again, I'm okay with it. Like I was even talking to Duffy last night and I thought he for a second was like, feeling like I felt bad and I'm like, Duffy, I'm telling you, I will thank you till the end of time for taking me on that trip. I'll take you to the end of time for getting me out of a head game that I don't know if I would have ever gotten out of. Even if I could have kept making money, and even if life would be easier today and for the rest of my life could be easier, I'll never not thank him. So I wanted to make sure that was clear to him, because whatever happens because of it is my own fault, right? It's my own doing. Like somebody was asking me recently about, have you found a good job? Are you making good money yet? I'm like, no, but maybe. I said, I did make money off of technically a lie for 7 years. So I probably have to go 7 years of not making money with the truth. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I was in full-time ministry for a lot of decades, so I need a shorter time span of making up for my sins. But so let me throw this theory at you. Hearing your story, and again, correct me where you don't feel like this resonates.
Sure.
It feels like before you left, you already started to feel a little bit of tear in the relationship between you and the community, and you already paid a little bit of the price of giving up the belief even before you gave up the belief, so that by the time you were presented with the evidence, you've got two main identities. Obviously, you've got several others. You're a man, you're a husband, you're a whatever.
Right.
But like there are two main identities here that are you are a truth seeker, and also you're a flat earther. But some of the flat Earth thing starts to disintegrate a little bit, and so that is the price that you would pay if you gave up this identity. So that by the time you get there is a lower price to pay than if that break had not happened before.
Yeah, that's a good point there, because I think what I felt too is the group, I no longer was proud to be in that group before I went. So it wasn't like I went down there as a staunch flat earther, this is my team, everything, go, go, go. I went down there thinking, these people hate me for doing this trip, which is just going to find the truth. They've already told me that my trip doesn't matter, even though it does. These are not truth seekers, because I'm seeking truth, and they don't care what the truth is. They're not going to care one way or the other. So yeah, I think you're exactly right, that at least it wasn't like I felt like I was giving up this huge, great thing. And did I really fully think it out? No. And people ask me, did you think the trip was going to be, I thought the trip was going to be canceled till about, I'd say maybe 3 weeks before. 3 weeks before, when stuff started showing up at the door and stuff, because Duffy's holding duffel bags and all this clothes and everything's coming, and go to REI and get this and pick this up. All of a sudden you're like, oh shit. And then I started looking into it even deeper, and it's like crazy how you find things you never found when you were searching before. Like I found the Antarctic Marathon site. There's a whole webpage, Antarctic Marathon, and every single year, you can go to every year from 2025 all the way down to, I don't know what it is, 1999 or something. The only year that they don't have it is 2020 because of COVID. But every year there's videos of the people running the marathon in Antarctica during the 24-hour sun at Union Glacier. And like, I didn't even think that place existed. And I thought it was a joke. Oh, it's a lie. Oh, it's a front. And then when you go down there and you meet all these people that work down there, and I've been down here 15 years, I work every year, and they're real people, and they are actually smart people. Like I was talking to one, and they're like, oh, it's brilliant to work down here. They said, I work here for 4 months. I work in Alaska for 4 months. I have enough money, because I don't spend money during those 8 months, that during the 4 months I'm off, I can travel the world wherever I want to go. Completely free. I don't have a car payment. I don't have a house payment. We don't pay for food here. We don't pay for lodging here. And we get paid about what people get paid on the mainland. So you're like, wow, that's brilliant. And those people, they look like they have a good time. They have a good little family down there. The food's great. You can tell it's a real organization. It's a real outfit. And then you start thinking of all these other bases across Antarctica, and you realize they're all real. And all the military bases that are down there, and everywhere that everybody goes. So then you start realizing that it's just so easy to be removed from that and just say things like lie. So the problem that I have is that this is what I've realized about conspiracy theories in total, is that at a certain point, if we allow people to get away with just saying that's fake, I don't believe it, then expect for people to believe whatever they want, because now that's the case that we're in. So if you say, well, the Charlie Kirk thing is actually this because of this, no, that's fake. It's fake. It's a setup. They work for the cabal. Oh, okay. Well, then there's no arguing that. If somebody says that my trip was fake, how are you going to prove to them it's not? They already think it's fake. You're not going to be able to prove to them something was real. I mean, again, unless you've gone through something like I went through, which was once I saw that, I said, okay, I now understand the difference between evidence and us making assumptions and just kind of generalities. And so nobody has any evidence that we didn't go to Antarctica. They don't have any of that, but they've just got misunderstandings. Why is there no footprints in the snow? Why is this stitch line in the 24-hour footage? It's like it's a 360 camera. How do you think 360 cameras work? They're two cameras with a 180-degree view pieced together. That's how and again, if you don't do it exactly right, then there's a little tiny stitch line in there. So it's things like that that just people are very confused on. They don't understand gyroscopes. They don't understand airplanes. They don't understand any of that stuff. And yet they feel like they do, and they feel like they're on the right team, and they feel like they're on God's team. And that's going to be a big problem. So I've just noticed that with every conspiracy theory. Now, people might ask, well, what conspiracies? It's getting less and less every day. It's getting there's not very many things that I am able to stand on anymore unless there's the evidence for it. So when you talk about, Jeffrey Epstein or things that we have clear evidence that things that happened, that might still be a conspiracy theory. They might still be considered that, but at least they, I tend to look at things too. And I'm like, if something was really going on behind the scenes, I don't think we'd ever even hear about it now. Like when things are released or let out and you're like, oh, that makes sense. And oh, the Gulf of Tonkin makes sense. And oh, it's like, well, if it was really, really, really deep, we wouldn't even have heard about it. So I think that the things that they release are even for a reason. I certainly am not a believer in government. I'm certainly not a believer in this government. I actually hate it. I think that all people should start paying attention because we are seeing corruption in every level. And it may be time that we reset that. It may be time because it's getting so bad. I mean, it's like really disgusting. And that's not a conspiracy theory. I think people just don't realize that they're numbers game because I think we all sit here and look at like, do you want your money going to Israel for their war against Iran? I don't. That's my tax money. And I think everybody would say the same thing, yet we all sit around and let it happen. So at some point we have to know, hey, there's 350 million of us and there's 20,000 of them. And we can make decisions or put in action. But I think everybody's so afraid to do that. Again, the people who have good jobs, who have their iPhone and have their TV, they're happy. They're okay. They're like, okay, well, I like this. And if I have to go and upset the government, then all this is going to go away and my iPhone's not going to work. So I'm not saying I have the answer to it. I don't. But I do think that a lot of conspiracy theories are meant to put people in this state of everything's fake. And when you do that, who was I watching the other day? I was watching some guy and he even said, he's like, now I don't believe anything so people might think that that's like a good point to get to, but they need to realize the implications of that is, if you don't believe anything, I mean, people used to always say like, oh, if you went to school, everything you believe is a lie. And I didn't go to school, so I don't believe those lies. It's like, well, you know what? That person who went to school still knows more than you and knows more truth than you because at least some of the things they learned was true, right? Like not all of it was a lie. So you tend to think like I don't want people to get into this camp of like, oh, it's just better to believe people on the internet. And they need to recognize that people are making money. And if they're making money, they're going to stay to that same line of thinking because of what would happen. And I just happen to be an example of what happens when you try telling an audience that you've built that they're wrong. That it's not like they go, oh shit, we better, and the sad thing for me is that people are so afraid of doing that I came out and spoke out. Well, what other flat earthers come out and said that they were wrong? What other flat earthers said they're going back to the globe? The ones who did it in a post on Facebook and disappeared. That would be Robbie Davidson. Robbie Davidson is the guy who started the Flat Earth Conference in 2017, 2018, 2019. He was the head of the Flat Earth Conference. He has gone back to the globe, but has never spoken publicly, besides a post on Facebook. Patricia Steer, never spoken publicly, post on Facebook. Paul on the Plane, never spoken publicly, post on Facebook. So I kind of felt like the punching bag because I'm the only one that has the nuts to say I was wrong. I'll deal with it. And that's upsetting because the reason that you do that is to show people that they too can do it. But if that doesn't work, if you are just the only one who's left out there to dry and nobody else does it, then it makes you look really like you were wrong. Because if what I was saying is right, why aren't more people doing that? Why aren't people more? So unfortunately, I know that I'm right. I know the shape of the earth. I've seen it. Whether people are, oh, you haven't seen the globe? No, I have. Once you understand how the earth works and you see the sun, there will never be an explanation for what the sun does when it sets every single day. And you can call anybody in the South, and this is why nobody talks about it, is because the South tells you the shape of the earth. The only way that you can make the sun do what it does, and it makes sense, is orientation change. It means one of the people is upside down. Now, they're not upside down in reality because ground is down for everybody, but they're upside down in reference to each other. And again, that's just, somebody could do that very simply. Hold your phone up and record and move your hand going right to left across the screen, then flip it upside down and move your hand right or left across the screen. Now watch the video and you will see that you're going right to left, and then all of a sudden you're going left to right. And that's it. And that explains what we see the sun do every single day. And it's as simple as turning my phone upside down. Now, you'll never be able to do that on the flat earth because people even say, well, what if you are on this side of the room and he's on that side of the room and you're both looking at the light? It would be upside down versus you both. And it's like, yes, but it's not moving in a different direction. And we're not both facing the same direction, which is what happens on the earth. So, so I wanted to get that out. I just wanted to make sure people, again, flat earthers, I'm not going to be able to change their mind. They're already set. But I would hope that people would start to bring up some of these things that might help kind of, clear the cobwebs, which is like, where's the South Pole? Like, because somebody like Dave Weiss, let's say we got Dave Weiss on the show right now, and we said, Dave, if we take you to the South Pole, would you then realize that you're wrong? He is somebody who would say he won't go. He will make up anything in the world because ultimately he knows that if we go to the South Pole, he's wrong. So some people are not going to ever allow that to happen. So again, it means that he would have to lose his app money. Now where's he going to go work? What's he going to do? Who's his friends going to be? He's shunned everybody who's a globe believer. So to him, the death is worse than changing that.
Yeah, and obviously I don't know, I'm not inside of his mind, but I think there is an option where caught in any worldview that deeply, like looking from the outside, when you're looking at a group that's not yours, and especially when that group goes really deep, it always seems like the only reason they could act that way is either if they're mentally challenged or if they're evil. Those are the only two options, and I feel like that's the way. I mean, that is tribalism, right? Like that is for every group. Like, I'm looking at what you're doing, and the only way that I would do what you're doing is if I was evil, so you must be evil.
I get it. So you're like saying how, like Professor Dave says that he knows everybody's a grifter, right? He's like, no, they're grifting. When it's like, well, but it's not necessarily like, if you believe in what you're doing, that's not a grift, in my opinion, unless I don't understand the definition. The definition of a grift would be purposely lying to make money, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think Dave Weiss is doing that. And I even say, when I tell you, let's invite him to the South Pole, when he's saying no, it's not because he knows, right? It's not because he's lying and he's like, oh, that will expose my lie. It's, I'm telling the truth, and if I go, that will expose that my truth is not right.
Yeah, it's the same reason that as a Christian, I wouldn't want to debate with some atheist. Like, I don't want that conflict. Like, that doesn't sound fun to me. And also, I know that I already have the truth. So why would I put myself through that torture of having to go through arguing with someone who's obviously evil and who's trying to convince me of an untruth?
Now imagine this. Now imagine that they told you that heaven is a place that you can go to, and they said, or let's make it the other way. Let's, like, hell is a place we can fly you there and prove to you that. I'm trying to give it an equal example to where, yes, that way you have this, I don't want to listen to this atheist, but if there was some way that you could know definitively and you refuse to do that, that's how bad Flat Earth has gotten it, is where you could tell Dave Weiss, Dave, would the South Pole prove to you that you're wrong? Yes. Okay. Well, can we take it to the South Pole? He will do whatever he can to not go because of the implications of if he went. Imagine if he truly, really believed what he did, then you would go. That's how I know I truly believed in the flat earth.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not convinced of that.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm having trouble is that that's what I don't understand, if these people are really, why was I willing to go? That's what I don't get.
Well, I think, again, and this, again, me projecting my experience on you, but I think that there are a lot of people who are in those groups who don't have the fear of the mature, in my case, mature Christians had. Like, mature Christians don't read atheist materials because they know that's going to be a trouble to their faith. But these, like, young Christians or whatever, they're like, well, but if, like, I want to seek the truth. Like, I'll read whatever, and they don't understand. No, there's a reason that we all say don't do that, and that we're all afraid, even though we wouldn't say that we're afraid. Like, and so I think there's just a naive optimism that truth will win out, and that we have the truth. And when those two things are in conflict, I feel like people like you and the millions of people who deconvert out of their religions, not just Christianity, but whatever their worldview is, they believe the things that we say, and the things that we say aren't really true. That we're not actually truth seekers. We're consensus seekers and safety seekers.
I was on a podcast you might like. I can't remember the name of it though, and I'm trying to think. It's something about losing religion or losing faith, something like that. And it's this skeptical magazine, and then they've got another division that is all the people that have come out of the faith. But I did a pretty good interview with them, and they say there's so many connections with my story and the people who have left religion.
It's in my mind, it's the same exact thing. I think this is just a thing that humans do. And we've got this category of theology, and there's a lot of that happening in that category. But we also do it with our politics. I mean, what does it mean to be a real American? Are the Democrats or the Republicans the real American? What does it mean to be a real man? What does it mean to be a real, like, anything that's like real or true? And it's like you're saying, it's even in the atheist community. Like, what does it mean to be like a true atheist? Like,
Do you just say, "I don't believe any of that religious stuff," or do you have reasons for not believing it? Yeah, I mean, it's it's questionable to me of to where this country's going now. I'm even worried about all that because of these facts that you I think before the internet, we were in a better shape because, I don't know about you, I grew up and I was told, like, "Don't talk about politics and religion." That's what I was told by my parents. And so but there wasn't conflict. It didn't seem like there was conflict ever much that I noticed. Whereas now everybody thinks their religion and their politics are so important. It's like their identity and the idea of changing your opinion on something is like, scary to people. Whereas I'm like, shouldn't we always change our opinion when evidence leads you to that, belief? And I guess for me, what people might say, well, why didn't you change your opinion about the flat earth for 10 years? That's way too long. And I would just say that maybe people should look at that and realize that some of the ways people were bringing it to my attention didn't make a lot of sense. But then I look back and I'm like, oh, shoot, but there's that mental block. So it's not even like I can't even blame anybody because no matter how clearly you told me that I was wrong, the mental block was going to be there. So how do we get that removed from people's minds? I mean, it was something I would need to talk to some of these other people that did leave flat earth and just say, do you have any ideas of how we could get somebody what was the moment that you went, uh-oh, right? Now for Paul on the Plane and for Patricia Steer and for Robbie Davidson, which are three big names that left with me, well, a couple weeks after, but they all said the same thing, which was basically they knew because they were here from the beginning, the importance of the South. They knew it. And so when we went down there, they figured that we would find anomalies. They figured we would find things that didn't work and be able to come back and say, hey, yeah, we did see the 24-hour sun, but look at this. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. Instead, we came back and said all 15 things that we went down there because we basically had like these 15 things that we would make predictions about them. And the score was 15-0. The globe won every one of them. The flat earth didn't predict the thing. And it can't predict a thing. And so you would hope people would start to realize that if it's not as simple as just, well, we've been lied to, and so therefore we've been lied to maybe about the earth. It's like the one thing they can't lie to us about. Why? Because we all live here. You can go look around, you can go and make observations, and that's why you can't lie to somebody about where they live if you give them a map and give them how the world works. So that's the thing about people don't realize, the globe has been mapped, right? So if the globe is false, then you just need to find one place on the globe that you go to that doesn't match the model, and you never will. And that's the end of the story. I mean, it's that simple. It's that simple because even if they lied to you, they would have to lie to you in a way that when you looked at the sky, that you would not realize that what you're looking at doesn't match a globe model when it does. The North Celestial Pole is 180 degrees opposite of the South Celestial Pole. These are truths that you can go and verify yourself. So same thing with the sun. Unless you believe that man has the ability to move the sun or to create multiple suns that some people can see and some people can't see, like literally the flat earth explanation now is that everybody sees their own sun. And it does, they say, oh, what it does is latitude dependent. Yeah, no shit. That's the way reality works. No matter where you're at, the sun is latitude dependent. But they make it seem like it could just appear. And even though it's above Australia, 30,000 miles that way, you see it to your south. Why? Because it's latitude dependent. Oh, great. But there's only one sun. So if there's one sun, it can't be both behind me 30,000 miles and over there. And that's all it comes down to. And people should recognize that on a flat earth map, the sun always moves in one direction, in a circle. And if you are, let's say you're in South America where I was, if you're looking west, the sun still moves left to right in a circle. And yet the sun moves right to left. It'll set going that way. It goes underneath the earth for just a few hours and rises up again. And you're like, wait a second. So when it was underneath the earth over there, it was noon for Australia. I mean, that's all you need to know. So sun's under there, then Australia's over there. It's underneath the globe. And yeah, and I'm not a demon, and I certainly am organic and not the Antichrist, hate to tell you. Although, it's so funny because I said something like, but you don't believe that Jesus is your savior, right? I'm like, no, they're like, then you are the Antichrist. I'm like, oh, okay. Guess if that's the
Yeah. Well, it seems like there's a common thread that when people leave these high control groups, there's like this phase where like it feels like the truth you've now come to and like the world that you used to live in is like it's all in conflict and like there's two sides, and then there's like a resolution of like, oh, the world is a really big place and no one gives a shit about this little fight that I've been having over here that has been my whole world, you know, which is why I think like all the deconstructionists out of their religions, like we all write books about like, but the world needs to know that this isn't true. And you get out in the world and they're like, yeah, duh. Like we weren't even thinking about that. We love you. We're cool with you. Welcome to the world. And now you don't have to do that anymore. But it's such a compulsion, such a strong compulsion that like when it takes up your whole world, when you're like me and you dedicated your life to this thing, this was the center of your whole world, like it seems like it was important, and to realize, oh, I can just like join this huge community that's like going on without any attention to this other thing. That
for me, because I thought, you're thinking in your head like this is the end of the world, that all these, and then I have to get a job, so I get a job. And I start working, and then you're like, that becomes your world. Now all of a sudden you just notice that your brain is on that all the time. I'm always thinking about that. I got to get up at a certain time. I got to do this tomorrow. And then you kind of look back and you're like, oh, like all that really didn't matter. Now it does suck that I'm still reached out to by people in this world, and that people still want to hear from me. And I am kind of like, well, I'm doing this, and they don't really understand that either, right? They're like, what do you mean you're working? You can't. It's like, well, when I was a flat earther, that was my life. So I was able to be interviewed whenever, be on whatever show whenever, make videos whenever. And now people I think like, okay, well you're working, but can you still do all this? And it's like, no, not really. Yeah, I mean, it's just because you don't want to, number one, and you just you're starting to realize that there's a whole other world. And I think that has told me, just like you said, now that's my world. But I'm doing internet. I'm doing basically marketing for a company and sales executive. But I realized that like, now that's my world. And it's such a small segment of the world, but it's just that's because that's what you focus on, and that becomes so important. And luckily, I found a job that doesn't matter, because I'm just a sales executive, and I do sales calls and things like that. That nobody's looking me up on the internet. So because was trying to find some jobs, and I kept running into the wall, which was people would look me on the internet and then say like, no, because I'm a liability. So luckily, I found a job where I'm not a liability, and that's at least able to make money.
And that'll only get better with time.
I think so.
Surely. Yeah, as a fellow human, let me first attest to your humanity. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And also, as a fellow human, I find you to be a really courageous example of trying to actually follow truth despite really high costs. So I respect that a lot.
Well, thank you. And I like you for this podcast. I think it's good that you're letting people at least speak out, because I'm not saying that something that's a conspiracy or not mainstream is always false. That's not the case. But I think that too often people just start believing too much of their own bullshit. And the internet's a tough place because you will always find somebody else who will tell you you're right. And then once people are telling you you're right and they invite you to a conference or something like that, and then if you're a flat earther, most of the people that I knew didn't have much of a life going on otherwise. So really, if you remove flat earth, they have nothing. And while that's scary to most people, I would just recommend that they think about the difference between believing the truth and a lie. Because you're right, a lie is probably more comfortable and you feel better there and it matches your worldview. But then you lived your whole, and I think even scare, again, it's kind of hard for me to say this because religious people are not, I don't think they're necessarily onto the right track, but what they've done is they are actually scaring people away from religion now, because they're actually telling people that the Bible says the earth is flat, and people that are smart are going, but the earth isn't flat. So if they don't realize what the implication is there, that you're not bringing people to God if you're going around telling people they have to believe in the flat earth or else God's not real. So again,
there's all.
Maybe I should be pro flat earth now that I think about it. Wow, I never even thought about that. I'll be backdoor like that.
Well, I think one of the really important things our world needs right now is less tribalism and more permission to change our mind, because we're all wrong about something. We're all wildly wrong about many things, and we need to see each other as cousins and on the same team, and give each other permission to change our minds and be wrong about things and still work together. So I appreciate that about you.
And if I could leave anything for the flat earthers, it would be, if you want me to be a flat earther again, it's easy. Just tell me where the South Pole is on your map. Tell me how the sun changes direction and goes backwards, and why the stars go a different direction, and we'll be all good. But they won't.
We'll wait patiently.
Yeah, we'll wait patiently. All right. Well, thank you.
Thanks so much, man. Thank you all for joining me. If you want to go watch Jeran's old videos from when he was a flat earther, or check out his new stuff, go subscribe to his channels. And speaking of, Hopefully it's obvious that I spend considerable effort putting these things together, and if you consumed it for free, it'd be cool if you clicked a couple buttons for free so we can keep this good thing going between us. And for you like-minded superfans, follow the link in the description for more free ways to show your support and keep this love train rolling. Be honest, be kind, be well, my distant cousins. I'm rooting for you, and I think you should too.